Viva Las Vegas. The NRL is back, boys. Got about 40,000 in there at Allegiant Stadium. Good scenes there from the party capital of the world as the Rugby League returns for 2024. We will continue our preview. Check out the last pod and associated clips for where we thought the non-Sydney teams would finish this year in 2024. Tonight, we'll be looking at the Sydney team, so part 2 of our NRL preview, looking at the ins and outs, personnel changes, and predictions for each team. Cricket, Cam Green and Nathan Lyons star as Australia beat New Zealand in Wellington in the first test. UFC 299 is next week. We'll preview that coming from Miami, plus a final round with a little bit of a different flavour to it with F1, AFL, soccer, NFL Combine all chucked in that final round. Going to be a pretty league dominant podcast tonight, but we do like our American sports. We do have timestamps, so you can skip to the sports that you like. Check us out on YouTube and Instagram. This is On The Esky. We'd like to kick off the show by shouting a beer to commend excellent work in the sporting world from the week. Shauno, how are you? And who would you like to shout a beer this week?
Very good, thank you. Welcome to the show. And my shout a beer this week is going to Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver out of Texas. Just broke the 40-yard dash record at 4.21 seconds, beating John Ross, who did 4.22 in 2017. So a pretty impressive feat. He's a 5'11", 165-pound wide receiver. So, but essentially some of the big boys actually did run in the 4.3s as well. So a lot of guys moving very quickly. But it was quite impressive. The simultaneous cam of the two of them with him against John Ross really showed that he got out early, like a stride out early, and John Ross was actually back-end him to get within like a nose of him to be that the millisecond difference. So, yeah, it was a pretty cool thing to see. A bit of context, though. I think Usain Bolt officially ran a 4.22.40 as well, but he traditionally was a back-end runner anyway for the 100 metres once he got going in his big strides. And I think it was Christian Coleman who recently just won the indoor 60 metres for World Championship. He has been timed doing a 4.12 in the 40s. So that's track speed versus football speed. But, for a young guy like this to break the record, get the record, that'll help his standards as people's... He said he modelled his game after Deshaun Jackson, which is a great kind of... potential, avenue for him, get open, get deep, and get those balls. So, I think that's a good one for him, and congrats.
Worthy shout of beer.
Enjoy your beer, courtesy of the Esky, you fast person.
That's it. Actually, watching some clips of the draft, they were having like the simulcam on like the linebacker. Cone drills, which is pretty cool as well. Watching linebackers compare speed.
See their footwork going in and out. Mahomes got roasted throughout the whole thing as well. They used his 40-yard dash time against each other's. So he hit the 30-yard when Worthy had finished his run. So 30-yard dash mark. So 10-yard head start for him there. Yeah, Paul Mahomes.
Good thing
What's
he doesn't
he ever
need
done?
to run. Who have you got this week, Peps?
I'm going to shout 2 beers to Bo Webster and Riley Meredith of the Tasmanian cricket team for their 153-run partnership for the 10th wicket in the game against Victoria. Bo Webster finished with 167 not, and the number 11, Riley Meredith, stuck around, making 44, saw off 93 rocks. Pretty impressive for a number 11 to do that. I thought, geez, that must be close to a Shield record. Nope. You do have to go back nearly 100 years for blokes called Kipax and Hooker for New South Wales, who scored 307 for the 10th wicket. So as us Aussie cricket fans have been lamenting over the last few months about our lack of finishing power against the number 11 in recent test matches. Thank God we weren't Victorian fans watching back in 1928, watching Kipax and Hooker go out there and put on 307. We got them on the ropes, boys. We got them on the ropes. Number 11's coming in, 307 runs later. Jeez,
that's it.
Deflating.
I wonder what the total was for that.
Yeah.
For them to get 307.
Exactly.
must
Like
have been a
how much did they make up of that game?
Well, that's a good question, and that might be some research for another episode,
Yeah.
I think. But
That's fair.
it's pretty incredible because it's higher than the 9th and 8th wicket records in the Shield, which are also over 100-year-old records. So, yeah, the tail enders used to stick around a little bit, that's for sure. Anyways, that's history. The this week's beers go to Bo Webster and Riley Meredith.
Speaking of history, James, who have you got?
Yeah, making history. So after 1,470 odd games, LeBron Jackson. Wow. I can't even pronounce my own name right.
Yeah, LeBron Jackson. Yeah. You had Deshaun Jackson in your mind.
Yeah, I did. That's it.
LeBron Jackson.
LeBron James. Yeah, of Jackson fame. Has finally broke the 40,000 points mark
Barrier.
in his career, putting him
Well, first,
well above. He's, I mean, obviously still well above anyone else in the NBA. So yeah, absolute massive props to him. Shout out beer to him. Sean, you were saying that this was happened on the same day that Wilt Chamberlain
had his 100-point game.
Had his 100-point game.
March the 2nd.
Yep, back was 62 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so elite company there as well. Yeah, just absolutely wild. In terms of active players, the next closest to him is KD at 28,000.
12,000 head.
Yeah, there's probably no way he's catching him as well.
No.
So, yeah, probably a record that will stand for a very, very long time.
Yep.
Love your input there, Jackson. Thank you. Shauno, do you want to take them up of the week?
Yes, and I think we've been following this story for a little while now.
Yeah.
So sticking with F1 for the mop, for Christian Horner, he officially was
Does he deserve the mop, or is it someone else within the organisation?
Yeah, someone else. Someone wants him gone, I think, is probably the way to think about this, because they did all their independent investigation. They had the independent barrister come in that did all the findings and then has said that the complaint has been dismissed. There was no validity to any of the accusations, so that he was cleared. So it was all good. He was all cleared. The next day, the Google Drive gets released, gets sent to all the media, which essentially had everything, all the messages, believe pictures, but not sure what pictures of. It seems a lot of those were him badgering said female employee for pictures of her and certain things. I think is the quickest way to summarize that. So I think it's going to come out that, maybe he was. Maybe it wasn't harassment to the point that he needed to be sacked, but maybe he was trying to be more intimate. But, there's probably a fine line between office romance and office harassment. So it sounds like the barrister's linked one way, and that's why they've removed the complaint. But, it's ended up being, a bit of a shit show leading into the Bahrain Grand Prix. But he, of course, was there with his wife, Ginger Spice. So they... trying to show the
United Front.
Bingo, that's exactly what I was going for. So, it'll be interesting to see if anything more comes out of this. He said any of the media reports on it. Was it him or F1? I can't. Someone said it because they knew the drive had been leaked and said if you put this in the media and report on it, we will sue you.
Wow.
It'll be interesting to see where they have and whether they can. But it's a continuing story. But now it's out there and people are looking at it and going, this looks a bit more dodgy than them keeping it behind closed doors. Now you got the public opinion. Does that sway at all? And do they go back and have a look at this? And is his job back on the line where it was safe, at the start of the week? So
does the timing of it all seem pretty conspicuous as well, right on the eve of the F1 season kicking off?
Yeah, right. And the day after that he'd been cleared. It's definitely, massive sport that it is with all the money involved and all the politics as well. There's a bit of a power struggle and potentially, someone's definitely gunning for him. See
how it all unfolds. But Definitely adds a little bit of intrigue as well, much like
Drives to Survive.
Storyline.
Yes, we've got it.
I'm not sure that's a storyline you'd want to be putting out there.
What, did you see in Drive to Survive this year? They smoked him in one of the first episodes because they have Santa come to his house and Santa asks, "Has Dad been naughty or nice?"
Oh no!
And the kids are just like, I don't know. Like, and that aged so poorly with the recent allegations. So all not-worthy behaviour, we think, and we'll see if that story eventuates in the coming weeks for F1 and Red Bull Racing.
We'll chat a little bit more F1 come final round.
Yes.
Yep. We will.
All right, let's get stuck into it. Part 2 of our Rugby League 2024 preview. If you want to check out our thoughts on the non-Sydney teams, click on the last podcast. There's also some clips there for all the Queensland teams, Warriors, Storm, Raiders, Knights. But now we're going up to Sydney. We're going to go alphabetically. We'll start off with the Canterbury Bulldogs, who are at $41 to win the whole thing. Extensive ins and outs for the Bulldogs. Pretty much a complete rebuild over the last 3 seasons. Since I think it's the whole team in the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, I think since Gus Gould has joined, there's one player left.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yes. Wow. So he's done Gus Gould things and has turned the roster over completely.
Yep. So we do throw the term rebuild around a fair bit when we're talking various sporting teams, but this is knock down, start again, blow the whole thing up, and full on rebuild.
Oh, yeah.
Big name signing in Stephen Crichton coming across from the Panthers, likely to play fullback for the Dogs this season. Some other big name signings. We're not going to go through the entire list. Maybe just keep it to the bigger names. Josh Curran probably start in the forward pack, whether that's on the edge or I think he'd like to play 13 in his words. Coming across from the Warriors. I think Kurtman gets the 14, although it'll be interesting.
Hutchinson,
Jamin Summers.
In that list.
Yeah, so there's a few there that could be pushing for the 14. And I think a man who'll definitely have a starting position will be Bronson Cherry, coming back after years and years in the wilderness for the PEDs. So 4 years he's been out of the game. He did get caught when he was 18 or 19, so he's still only pretty young, and he looked pretty handy in the trials. Some bigger names to leave. Paul Alamotti, we saw him shine in that starting centre role. He goes over to the Panthers. Their club captain, Raymond Fatala Marina, he's going over to the Dragons. Probably the biggest name in terms of storylines this year, Cole Flanagan going over to the Dragons to play under his dad. Tavita Pangai Jr. and Josh Reynolds retiring. Corey Waddell over to Manly, amongst others, out. So huge ins and outs, the most extensive that we'll cover in this episode for sure. What does it mean for the club? And what are our thoughts here, boys, around the Bulldogs?
Think better again on paper, which was the same thing we said last year. And they maybe didn't perform like we thought they would. I think they really struggled last year for a halfback, so we'll have to see if they've fixed that issue this season. I think Steve Crichton's a good in for them. Interesting, they named him captain off the bat. But I guess Panthers coach, Panthers system, Panthers culture is what they're trying to breed. So they've picked him as captain. But Matt Burton was the captain last year.
Well, him and Reid Marnie, who had both been brought in just before. But like we're saying, the whole team's new, so it's not like you can have a guy that's been there for 5 or 6 years. Exactly. I thought it was a little strange as well. I think it adds a little bit of maybe unnecessary pressure on him. And I don't know the exact message that it sends to Burton and Marnie, who both senior handy players. Yeah, exactly right.
But I guess Crichton's played in that team versus them, so... Yeah, he's probably the more accomplished and most senior player in that team. You think about it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Outside of, say, Addo Carr.
Yep.
So, I can see why they've picked him. But,
I think you can put whatever number on his back. Obviously, playing centre is going to be different to playing fullback, but he's got all the talent in the world. So I think he'll probably be the right man for the job. Their spine is critter, as aforementioned, Matt Burton. Toby Sexton played most of last season as the 7. and then Reed Marnie, or the back end of last season, I should say, for Toby Sexton. So it'll be interesting to see if that's 1, 6, 7 and 9 moving forward now for a number of years. I suppose the only real question mark there would be around Sexton, but some huge names in Critter, Burton and Marnie all coming across in the last few years.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key to unlocking their spine is the 7. And hopefully Sexton could be that dude. But I think we all had them still pretty low. I think I had them as 15, you 16, and then James at 14. So, in that back end, the last tier, as we will in this, fighting there with the Tigers, Dragons, and probably Titans for the bottom 4.
Raiders could possibly be in there too.
Raiders could sneak in there too.
Yeah, true.
Dolphins. Yeah.
Yeah, they losing Tom Gilbert during the week didn't help their chances, but
Yeah, poor fella did his ACL, as did Cohen Hess.
Yep.
Cowboys, they never like to see that. For mine, I was buying into the rhetoric last year when that they're bringing in guys like Marnie and Burton. I'm thinking, they can only get better, and
they technically went backwards.
Yeah, that was my concern. So I don't know if it's a player thing or if it's a culture thing. Granted, they looked really good in the trials. They are only trial games. I just couldn't have them coming up any higher. I've also maybe a little bit of bias.
Put the Dragons
above them with Tigers and Dogs below. So maybe a little bit of thinking with my head and thinking with my heart and not my head there. But yeah, I felt like I've bought into the Canterbury rhetoric over the last few seasons, and they've kind of been like, they actually haven't gotten any better. So I'd love to be proved wrong, Dogs fans. Get at me if you're listening. But I've gone a pretty lackluster year again for the Dogs. They've only won 7 games in 2023 and in 2022. Quite different results with the 15th last year and 12th the year before. But like I said, love to be proved wrong. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, agree.
I think, like you said, last year on paper we obviously thought they would have played overs what they actually did play. Having them at 14th, they've definitely added more players to the team. So I've just got them a little bit better than where they went last year. But again, kind of like the middle of the pack there, that bottom 5 or 6 could also just chop and change.
And there'll be like we saw last year with the Knights. There'll be a team that just comes out of nowhere and no one's expecting a whole heap of them. So will it be the Dogs this year? Time will tell, but none of us have got high hopes for them.
Well, who's your Kalen Ponga of the Dogs, I guess?
Well, Ken Critter. Ken Critter put the one on his back and become a top level talent. And I don't know, it's a lot of pressure for him. Just one to keep an eye on, young Mitchell Woods. If they do think that Toby Sexton isn't the man, say in 2025, 2026, this kid's 17. He captained the Bulldogs to Harold Matt's premiership last year, so a lot of young talent coming through for the Dogs. Probably doesn't debut, barring some kind of catastrophe this year, but the kid was a 3 code talent growing up, so I was in both Swans and Waratahs academies, and he's
big raps.
He's picked the Doggies, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on him and whether or not he debuts this year or next year. Kid's got all the talent in the world, so keep an eye on that name, Mitchell Woods. That'll about do us for the Doggies. Let's go down to the Shire and talk about the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. They're $23 to win the whole thing. Pretty good, really, in terms of ladders last few years. Finals, another story. We'll get that into that in a second. Finished sixth last year, won 14 games. They finished second the year before and won 18 games. Sean, amongst you've got them finishing just in the 8, with you've gone 6th. You've gone 8th, and I've gone 11th. I've gone a down year for the Sharks.
Spicy.
Bringing Billy Burns from the Dragons, and Michael Gabriel comes across as well.
Big outs.
Yeah, their outs are pretty big. They lose a lot of experience with Wade Graham going. Matt Ikavalu, winger, goes over to Catalans. Matt Moylan over to play for Lee, and Connor Tracy over to the Dogs as well. So I just don't know if they've recruited very well. We do know that Craig Fitzgibbon is a sort of pick and stick kind of operator. Once you're in his good books, it's pretty hard to get dropped. That seems to be the way that he likes to coach. And all this pressure around going so close but so far over the last few years, and I think a lot of these middle tier teams getting better. I've actually just gone the Sharks out of the 8. Having said that, their ceiling is probably 4th, 5th.
Well, I think that's probably like the range there, like 6 to 11. You know, that middle pack of the competition is going to be hard fought. So yeah, you could be 11th outside looking in, or you could end up being 6th. So just you need to go on a run, and I think for them to unlock that's Nico Hines. He needs to have an excellent season, keep that form alive from the previous 2 years, and also take another step, kind of really cement himself. Bang down the door for an origin position, kind of stuff. Like you really want to be having his best. And I feel like last year they beat every bad team and couldn't beat a good team. So
flat track bully sort of mentality about it.
Yeah, so I think that's the one area they should definitely look at is how do we win the big games? How do we beat the good teams? Because you're going to have to play a lot of them, and especially come finals time to be there. But I think 6 for me is probably their ceiling. But like you say, again, another couple of wins and they finish 4th. So
it's so hard to predict. Like we're kind of getting a little repetitive, but outside of Penrith, Brisbane, maybe Storm,
or Storm. So.
Yeah, it's that next tier down really could be anyone, and Sharks certainly fit into that. But yeah, I just when I was going through it, and I thought, Manly are better. I thought Cowboys played unders last year. I feel like the Warriors and Knights, will be riding high.
Can keep the momentum into the new season. So yeah. Hey Jimmy, I've got a challenge for you. Can you find the last time Melbourne wasn't in the top 4?
Ooh, yeah.
You'll have to go back year by year and check the ladder, but
it has happened.
It has to have happened.
in more recent memory.
They have to finish like 5th.
Didn't the rate because they finished 5th and Raiders knocked them off in 2022?
Yeah, maybe it was.
I feel like that happened. Yeah. Anyways,
you figure that out, and we will keep going. Anything else on Sharkies? Anyone to watch?
Yes, I think Kale Iro is one to watch, or Iro, I think. 24-year-old centre. His old man Kevin played 350 first grade games, mostly in Super League. Uncle Tony played 250 games with Manly, Roosters, amongst other clubs. Both of dad and uncle played for the Kiwis, and there's good word that he might even be pushing Talakai out of the centre role, and possibly Talakai to play off the bench or as an edge back rower. Yeah. So I
think that's a good fit for him, realistically.
Yeah, he's one to watch there. He had that game against Manly a few years ago where he put Morgan Harper on in the
they got him an origin spot,
in the spin cycle, and got him an origin spot, and I think it was like, holy fuck, like on his day he's the best centre in the league, but finding that long term consistency, he's struggled, I suppose, doing it. So be interesting to see how they line up there. You'd think Ramian will have one of those centres positions locked up. Will it be Hero? Would it be Talakai? Does Talakai start as an edge? Does Talakai come off the bench? It's going to be an interesting sort of mix there. Outside of that, not a whole lot of changes. So Kennedy, Sione Katoa, Ronaldo Mulatalo probably going to be playing 1, 2 and 5. Trindle and Hines through the halves. I think Toby Rudolph, Royce Hunt will probably be the starting props. Blake Brayley hopefully stays fit. And then they've got one of the best edge back rowers in the game in Britton Nickera. Came along leaps and bounds last year. And I think Teague Wilton will probably get the other starting edge position out of Naruma. Played pretty well until his knee injury in about round 20 last year. And then probably the bigger bomber, Dale Finucane at 13, Cam McInnes 14.
Who's their captain? Is it
Alan Uwaley. Captain is Nico, I'm pretty sure.
I thought Finucane started the season last year with it, but then he got hurt for a long period. I could be wrong, though.
So it used to be Wade Graham, who retired last year. So they
but he also was hurt a lot. So they might have had several captains last year.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. So, yeah,
Finucane
Finucane and McInnes. And I'm sure Nico led him a few times last year as well.
Yeah, because Finucane missed a large portion because he was hurt. So, yeah, that, again, doesn't surprise me.
How'd you go on that Melbourne Storm trivia?
So the last time they were outside of the fourth was in 2022.
Yeah, the Raiders knocked them off.
I think so, yep.
Yeah.
Before that, 2014.
Yep.
2010 when they got their points stripped.
And
then before that was 2005.
Jesus. So
So
post 2005,
that's
only four times, and with an asterisk next to one.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yep.
3 times in 20 years.
Incredible. Last
So
year,
lock him in for a spot.
last year, Nico did captain 5 games, Finucane 13, Wade Graham 17. And that must be co-captains if my maths is any good, because that's more than 24 games.
Who's next? Ooh, Manly.
Yeah, Manly.
The team that could be
Interesting
anything.
one, yeah.
They fucking look good today at $21.
Triple turbo.
Triple turbo. Finished 12th last year. Pretty disappointing, although were missing probably the most important of the turbos.
Yeah, a bit naturally aspirated last year.
Yeah, and 11th the year before.
You put that shirt on just for tonight, didn't you?
No. Yeah, I got a little turbo. There we go.
Jesus, bit of a car chat here. Shit turbo sounds. We've all got them in the 8, so we're all expecting big things out of Manly. And look, if today's anything to go off, and we did do these, grain of salt, we did them today. They look fucking pretty good over there in Vegas.
Ooh, yeah.
You've got them 7, I've got them 7, you've got them 6. And the big story is Luke Brooks coming in from the Tigers. He copped heaps, Is it Luke Brooks or was it the system that he was in? Something tells me it's
probably Tigerland.
Yeah, probably not Luke
Just
Brooks.
look at that board, bro.
It's going to be interesting to see how he goes playing inside DCE and with Tommy Turbo screaming for it coming through.
That frees him up so much. Yeah, less responsibility and more just focus playing his natural game. And if you got Tommy T running off your shoulder, you're going to have a good day.
I think so. He looked pretty good today, Lukey Brooks. Some other bigger name signings. Nathan Brown comes across from the Eels. Jackson Paulo got a start on the wing today. Corey Waddell had a bench spot there. Their bigger names leaving. Sean Kepi, who started for South. KO Weeks, we spoke about last week. Probably going to get the 6th job at the Raiders.
Might be Strange just nicking that. Strange played pretty well on the weekend as well.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know if Strange is going to get a centre spot and
Exactly,
how it's going to work with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll keep it about Manly. So Ruben Garrick into the centres with Turbo coming back's done an excellent job with the one jersey on his back, and then usually when Turbo's in has been a winger. So a few wingers moving inside a position this year.
Yeah, well, they got so much speed on the outside. I guess they wanted to keep it that way.
100%. Saab, one of the quickest men in the NRL. So I think if they stay healthy if they go triple turbo and all 3 of them stay healthy, if DCE stays healthy, I think, anything less than top 8's a failure.
Yeah, I agree. They're always that kind of team that get that dark horse card because as soon as they have those guys healthy, especially Tom Turbo, who nearly won a... Did he win the Dally M off playing half a season?
Yeah, 14. I think it was 14 games.
Yeah, so that's the kind of level of talent he brings to his squad, and he brings them from a bottom 8 team to a top 8 team. So, if he can stay healthy throughout and they can, Luke Brooks unlocks the halves a little bit, helps DCE, I think they could be anything, really. They could even push further than where we've ranked them at 7. They could really, challenge the top sides. And we had South high, and we'll get to them in a second, but they got hammered today. Yeah,
and matchups, and it was only today in Vegas and travel and the rest of it. But Olokwatu had Kalomatangi had him sorted and scored one from close range, and they'll be gunning for one of those edge spots for Origin as well. So they're pretty talented all over the park. This is how they lined up today. They had Tommy Turbo 1, Saab 2, Garrick 3, Kohler 4, Jackson Paulo comes across from the Roosters into 5, Luke Brooks 6, DCE 7, Daniela Paseka 8, Lachlan Croker 9, Josh Aluway 10, Olaquatu 11, then Ben Turbo 12, Jake Turbo 13, Carl Lawton got the 14 today, Corey Waddell, Ethan Bullimore, and Nathan Brown, bearing in mind there's some injuries to Josh Schuster and Matthew Lodge.
Are they going to play Schuster? Is he going to be utilities, second rower?
Yeah, I think he's going to come off the bench as a second rower, and if
paying big money for him. So.
Yeah, if they need half coverage, I think it'll be if DCE goes down, Brooks will play the half and Schuster plays 6.
Especially during, I guess, origin period if DCE's going to go around again for Queensland, which he hasn't said he's not. So
so it's going to be hard to see a future for Schuster if Brooks looks like the man in 6. Yeah, he's going to have to play as an edge, and he wouldn't want Ben Turbo to be having games like he did today because he looked pretty good.
Yep.
Keep an eye on Gordon Chan Kumtong, 22-year-old hooker. He made his debut, played a handful of games last year. Probably be pushing Carl Lawton for that 14 spot, and he's got an absolute mouthful of a name, so you can call him GCKT, Gordon Chan Kumtong. Few interesting names there through the rest of the squad. Zach Fulton, very famous Manly name there. Played a few games last year. Jake Arthur come across mid-season last year. Tommy Talau, Brad Parker. There's in terms of depth, they've got some reasonable names there.
Also, what's really funny is Aaron Woods was a part of all the advertisement media beat up and didn't play in this game.
Yeah, he had 20.
The face of Las Vegas.
He had 20 on his back. I think Woodsy, at this stage of his career, it's more sort of a mentorship.
He's a good mouthpiece.
Kind of role, yes. And he speaks pretty well for
was it Saab during the week that got cooked by the American media because they were trying to ask him about mascots and they were trying to ask him like, what's a Rabbitoh? He's just like, a rabbit.
No way. A Rabbitoh is the guy that hunts rabbits.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Bit of trivia for you boys. What do you got there, Mark? Bit of Manly chat, Manly history.
Yeah, well, I think you had in the notes to look at the record for Manly with and without Tommy Turbo.
How'd you go with that?
I don't know if I got the maths right, but potentially.
Significantly worse.
With you and Massa. He's got a spreadsheet. He's got a spreadsheet.
I broke out a spreadsheet.
I'm feeling more confident now. I'm feeling more confident.
So Tommy Turbo's played 132 games since 2015. Mm-hmm. He's won 68 games. Mm-hmm. In that time period, Manly has played 212 games, won 97. Mm-hmm. So that leaves Manly has played 80 games without Tommy Turbo and have only won 28.
So, if maths is your strong suit, which I'm not exactly sure, but I'm glad the spreadsheet is there, they're winning like a third of their games when
he plays.
Yeah. When he doesn't.
He's winning. They're winning. They're just over 50% when he plays, and about a third, so 33% when he's not playing. So
which is a significant drop off for one dude.
Yeah.
Well,
that's it.
They're 100% when Turbo plays this year, so they'll be hoping that stays up. And I think Manly fans should be reasonably confident for top 8 this year, especially given the way they played today.
When was the last time 3 brothers in the same squad played together?
Burgess boys, I would think.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So it would be either the last time Sam or Luke played with George and Tom.
And did 3 Walters play for Brisbane before that?
In the 90s? Yeah.
That's they're probably the ones.
That's
probably it.
Yeah.
Not enough John's brothers.
Well, there's plenty of twos.
Yeah, threes.
The Morris boys. Yeah. But yeah, 3s. Yeah, there we go. You look it up.
Josh.
It can just be brothers, I think, from that article.
Yeah, it is just brothers.
Yeah.
We're looking for 3s though, bro.
Yeah. I know. All 4 Burgess has played in one game for South, or a few games for South, which is
Bromwich brother.
Yep, Burgess.
Yeah, when have they got that? The first time all 4 of them played together?
Out of the first 2010.
2011.
Brothers.
Yeah, that's
must have been 2011.
There you go.
I know George and Tom debuted 12 and 13.
Yeah.
So it must have been in 13?
Sometime around there.
Yeah.
Did they win the grand final?
I think 14, I think they won it.
Yeah, I think there might have been about 3 of them, though. So one of them had to retire.
Yeah, no, that was Sam Burgess' last game, wasn't it?
Yeah, when
He
he broke
broke
his
his
jaw.
He broke his jaw, yeah.
But
they went
was
to play
Luke playing in
union.
that year?
Yeah, was Luke playing that year?
I'm going straight to it. Well, interesting. The AFL Grand Final was the first one that come up when I typed in 2014 Grand Final. Here we go.
Search
Tom Burgess, Sam Burgess, George Burgess, no Luke Burgess. Yeah, in 2014.
We had Walter Brothers.
Yep. Is it triplet?
Yeah, 3 Mortimers.
Mortimers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so pretty rare.
many, yeah.
Pretty rare. So if we see triple turbo through the rest of the season, going to be some history breaking stuff.
Who's up next?
It's a good little segue into South
South.
Sydney. And $9.50 to win the whole thing. Very disappointing finish to last season, finishing 9th. Lost pretty much out for like the last sort of 6 odd weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Won
off the cliff.
12, lost 12, finished 7th the year before. We've all got them bouncing back in kind of a big-ish way. You've got them finishing in the top 4, both of you, finishing
Threes.
3rd, and I've got them finishing 5th. The biggest signing, arguably, of the whole off-season, Jack Whiten comes across to play with his cousin Latrell, across from the Raiders, probably the biggest signing, although Stephen Crichton might say something about it. Didn't play the Vegas game, misses next week too through suspension. So he'll be back in round 3. And then another notable omission for the first half of the season is Campbell Graham. We did report a few podcasts back that his sternum does require surgery. I think he had it a few weeks ago. And the whole sort of management around that was interesting. They'd gone some sort of osteoporosis injection, trying to avoid going under the knife for that. He did have his shoulder done first thing in the off-season. And obviously the injection and that sort of more conservative approach didn't pay off. So poor fella had to have sternum surgery pretty much on the eve of the season. So they'll miss him. He came on leaps and bounds last year and was really gunning for an origin spot. But they'll be without him. Didn't sign broadly. Sean Kepi, we did mention, coming across from Manly. The only sort of starters they lose or bench guys they lose are Liam Knight and Hummer Selly. So relatively unchanged. How do we think they're going to pan out in 2024?
I feel like they need to avoid what happened last year. Is probably the main thing. Is they started really well.
Trell missing half a season.
Yeah, and then through the Origin period, kind of fell apart, and a large part of that, is, of course, Latrell missing it with the reoccurring calf injury. So because he's a big, just like we just talked about, Manly with Turbo, Latrell's massive for South in their spine. So otherwise, the rest of the roster is really good. So I think we're missing one player. Why did we fall apart as bad as we did? It can't just be on Latrell, because the rest of the roster is really, really good. Cody Walker's in there, Damien Cook, Karen Murray, et cetera, et cetera. So they've got talent. So I think that'll be the big challenge for the coaching staff, is how do we avoid a big collapse like that? We need to stay healthy with Latrell, of course, and fire on all cylinders, because they might not be the best defensive side in the comp, but they can score the most points. They've had that title for a couple of years. I think it's been the try scoring fiends with the X Factor, etc. Then you get back to that, and I think a large part of that is healthy Latrell. Cody Walker, I think, was a little bit dusty leading into this. He was for the game today. I think he was a late in for them, so that's going to be the challenge, is keeping all those guys healthy.
1 through 17 today. Trell Mitt at 1, Alex Johnston at 2, Isaiah Tass, Richard Kenner. So one of them will miss out, you'd think, when Jack Whiten comes in. Jacob Gagai made his debut on the wing, scored today at 28 years of age, second oldest ever debutant to play for South. So kudos to him, younger brother of Dane. Cody Walker, Lachlan Ilias. Ilias looked pretty good first half of the season last year. Obviously a lot of pressure with him trying to fill those boots of Adam Reynolds. He's only young, but certainly looked the part at times last season. Tavita Totola is an underrated middle forward. Damien Cook, Sean Kepi, Keon Kalamatangi, Jai Arrow, Cameron Murray. You'd be hard pressed to find better packs than that in the league. Havili, Host, David Muali, Tom Burgess off the bench there. Depth might be a little bit concerning for them. It's going to be interesting to see again through that origin period. You'd expect Latrell to miss. You'd expect Damien Cook to miss. You'd expect Cam Murray to miss. Jai Arrow, maybe Kalama-Tungi, maybe Cody Walker. So that's a good half the team there that might miss out during the Origin period. And didn't Jack put his hand up as well to say that he might be re-available for
exactly.
if he got selected.
Yeah, I think
that hurts him.
I think same for kind of the situation for Nico Hines. Like they were kind of on the outer. I think with Fittler and weren't real happy with New South Wales coaching, but new regime, new ideas. They're both back open to being able to do it. I was just looking at that. So he's two. Based on this, Alex Johnston is 2 behind Billy Slater and third. He did score 1 today. I'm not sure if that's been updated. So, because I can't see any statistics for him for this season so far. So he might be 1 behind Billy Slater. I think he gets Billy.
Yep.
Will he get Ken?
I think so. If he stays healthy, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, he did 21 last year. So we will continue Alex Johnston watch. He's third there, and how far he got there? 24. My quick math is right.
Yeah,
based on that number, maybe 23. So
23, I think.
Yeah. So, am I that confident you're going to do it this year? Healthy Latrell is a big difference because he averages 30 tries a season with Latrell, so that will really boost his numbers. But yeah, if Alex Johnson can play the season, he could be number 1 try scorer of all time.
Yeah, how old he is?
Early 30s.
29.
Yeah.
I just looked at it. I thought early 30s too. I thought for him to have scored that many tries, he must be 30.
2014. This is 10th season. Yeah, I guess so. He started as 19.
He turns 30 this year.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff for AJ. I think there's no doubt he's going to get the record. But yeah, is it in 2024 or is it 2025? That's maybe the more pertinent question.
Yep.
Anything else to add there for South?
Don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
We've all got them top 4. I think, sort of like Manly, if they were to miss the 8, that would be a disappointing season. Although pressure probably a little bit higher, even on South with Whiten coming in, they really should be a top 4 team.
Yeah, and they shouldn't finish 9th like they did last year.
Correct.
They had that. Not playing finals footy for them is a huge failure. So they really need to play finals football.
All right, let's go to the dynasty. The Penrith Panthers won the comp last year, won the comp the year before, won the comp the year before that. 3-peat. Looking at our predictions, everyone's had them winning the comp last year, which were good predictions. Shauno, you've got them finishing second. Do you think Brisbane maybe take that extra step this year? Me and Monks have got them finishing
Brisbane
first
need to get a roll
again.
on. They went super great today against
it's a long season.
But it is a long season.
I was listening to our chat about him last year. It was kind of like, here's all the guys they lost, big losses in Api Coruscant and Matt Burton and all these guys leaving. And then we're like, but they still the best team. And we couldn't really articulate why. We said, they've got the Cleary combination. Yeah, they've got this incredible junior.
Tom Brady, so yeah.
Yeah, so I think that when you look at it on paper again, they should be worse. Their outs from a talent perspective outweigh their ins. But we're in a dynasty. The 3-peat was an NRL era record. No one has done that since the 80s, and Parramatta doing it. And what they're trying to do now is go even further into the history books, and you got to go back to the Dragons back in the late 50s, early 60s, the 11 in a row, with something we'll never see again, bearing in mind there was no salary cap back in those days. So to win 3 of these things in a row is incredible.
In the NRL era, yeah, definitely.
Can they do 4? That's what they're trying to do. It is their last year with Jerome Luai has confirmed that he'll go over to the Tigers next year. So breaking up that 6 and 7 combination that has done so well for them. But they did bring back Dane Laurie, who's a Panthers junior. So I don't know if they've earmarked him for 2025 playing the 6.
I think if anything's going to be their outdoing, it'll be that dynamic. Is he looking over his shoulder already? He's already thinking about next year. Leaving. Is there any tension? Like, if they start losing games, then I think the frustration maybe can fracture them. But
that could be a headline because Jerome Luai is a walking headline as it is.
It is, yeah. So
you could definitely see the Sydney print media going after him if they were to drop a few games.
Exactly. Yeah. So and whether that starts to fracture that relationship a little bit, and then of course when he leaves they'll reset and they'll probably be excellent next year.
I doubt
maybe, but
Romy and
we're clutching at straws for a reason why they'll be bad. Yeah. So otherwise they're probably going to finish 1 or 2. They've still got an excellent squad. Their spine is still elite. They've still got Nathan Cleary in there. So you can't fault them.
And how we're saying, missing the 8 is unders for South and Manly. Missing the 4 is unders for Penrith. There's no reason why they shouldn't be a top 4 team again this year. They're $3.75 to win the whole thing, which is bloody short. Yeah, probably not a heap of value there. But it's if there's any team that can do it, it's this team. They've just proven time and time again, especially in the big games as well. I felt like last year they looked like they weren't quite the Penrith of 2022, and they were able to go through and win games when it mattered most.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing that ever happened to them was probably getting hammered by the Storm in the grand final. It really taught them, how to prepare, how to get ready. I think the veteran that was Cam Smith and the way he ran that game, I think they learnt a lot, especially for Nathan Cleary, and they've been dominant post that.
Yep.
It was really the coming of age, I think, for them, their moment.
We'll talk briefly about the other ends. So Paul Alamotti comes over from the Bulldogs. I don't think he'll be pushing for a starting centre job. I think Tungo or Taylor May, who's coming back from injury, would have to get hurt. Brad Schneider, half, he comes across. And Riley Price comes across from the Cowboys. Lots of outs, so we're going to talk about it. We've already mentioned Critter. Zach Hosking, we spoke about last pod, goes over to the Raiders. Spencer Lenu, who got himself in a bit of hot water today, over to the Chooks. Jamin Salmon of Weak Gutted Dog fame. Jack Cogger, Tom Jenkins. So lots of outs for him. And again, success does build pressure because guys demand a bit more coin, and that's part of the game. But if last year's anything to go off, where we're talking about all the outs and like, holy fuck, there's a lot of guys going out, didn't seem to matter for them as long as they got that core together.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we've kind of talked about it, like the way that it could fall apart, but this could be their last dance as well. Yep. So you could go the other way as well. They all group together to do it for one last time.
One to watch, Maverick Geyer, son of Mark Geyer, 23-year-old. He's been elevated up to their top 30. Probably doesn't find himself quite in their best 17, but Origin period should definitely get a start. And a couple of injuries we'll see him in. So keep an eye out on Maverick Geyer. If he's anything like his old man, be pretty handy.
Yep.
1 through 17, this is their predicted lineup. Dill Edwards, Sunia Turuva, Isaac Tungo, Taylor May coming back off the ACL, Brian the meter eater, Jerome Luai, Nathan Cleary. Then forward pack has taken a bit of a hit, but they still look pretty strong on paper. Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny, James Fisher-Harris, Liam Martin, Scott Sorensen, who was vastly improved last year, Isaiah Yeo, and bench as well, taking a bit of a hit. Sonny Luke, Zach Hosking goes, so that's an old thing. Luke Garner, Lindsay Smith. So maybe Maverick Geyer might be pushing for a bench spot. They do have the likes of Tyrone Peachy, Dane Laurie. They could possibly play him as a bench guy. It'll be interesting to see how they get announced on Tuesday. Anything else there to add, Monks?
No, not too much.
They've got Matt Eisenhuth as in their best 17 there, according to Zero Tackle.
Yep.
I think you're probably right. Like, I was probably, like I said last year, that Farnsworth would probably want to protect himself a little bit going across to the Dolphins, but he still had a pretty good year. Probably similar with Jerome. Like, he probably still wants, getting the 4th one in a row would be more than anything else that you'd want in the comp. I reckon that spine, that combination there is going to be electric this year. They're obviously going to play. They need to prove. They want to prove something, I guess. Long story short.
They're the best and put their names in history forever.
And Romy's mindset, like, obviously you don't want to just go across the Tigers and assume that you're never going to play in a grand final ever again.
Yeah.
But
happy carousel.
what do you say when I go to the Tigers next year? Burp.
They're just collecting all the pieces.
But he also, you know, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. He might also have that, you know, I'm making this decision financially and trying to support my family for life. But the caveat of that is, look, I may never go to the big dance ever again. So they'll be hungry. They're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, I agree.
Another team that's going to be hard to beat in 2024.
Keep them dead
St.
last.
George Illawarra Dragons, value at 126 to 1 to win the whole thing.
Buy tickets now.
They finished 16th last year. They won 5 games. 10th the year before. Geez, 10th would be nice, wouldn't it? 2 Dragons fans here, and the non-Dragons fan on my left has got them winning the spoon.
Yes.
I've gone 15th. You've gone 16th.
Couldn't put them last.
You traitor.
I didn't put them last.
Well, yeah, I didn't put them any higher than 15th. So high expectations this year for the Dragons. Shauno, you want to run us through why you think this team is a wooden spoon team?
Well, I feel like when you look at those teams we just talked about, and we haven't talked about the Tigers yet, but you know the teams around them, in theory, should have got better. Which is, I think, the exact same thing we said last year. Maybe outside the Titans, so you're hoping the Titans are going backwards. Same with Raiders; they haven't really added, so you're hoping they're going backwards, and the Dragons can avoid the spoon, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about avoiding spoon.
Yeah,
we're not even top 8 conversations.
No,
it's
that
like,
would be
let's avoid the spoon.
Yeah,
let's avoid the spoon. And I feel like those teams around them, Tigers and Bulldogs being the main two, have improved. Whereas Dragons they tried to sign everyone and couldn't really get any name value that they were after. Besides Luciano, who signed but is also suspended now for the first couple of games. He was really the last dice roll and big name that they've got to come across to the club. So
Dragons Junior too. Love being home.
Yeah. So, but it's they had the cash, really haven't capitalised on it. Not really a strong roster, so there's not a lot you can pin your hat on that's going to go right. Besides a man named Ben Hunt.
Yeah,
he is the squad. He is the side.
And for anyone that watched the trial game against the Tigers on the weekend, he was just doing Ben Hunt shit. Setting up tries, scoring in them himself.
Yep.
Looks at just a class above everyone else. Caveat, it was a preseason game, but we've seen him do it. In Origin, we've seen him do it for the Dragons for a number of years.
Exactly. He did commit to the season to the Dragons.
Yeah.
But same thing that happened last year when they've lost 10 in a row. And does he start questioning? It's like, I've only got so much longer left in my career. Do I want to stick it out here, the Dragons, or again, like move north, go closer to home, like he talked about last year? So, yeah, for now he's committed. I think he's only on a 1-year deal left. Last year in his deal.
The last of his contract. A bit of a shit show of an off season as well, with the Ronald Volkman fiasco. Bringing over a guy from the Warriors and his shoulder hadn't been cleared. And the physio said it felt like chocolate, because it was a strange descriptor, I thought. And poor Corey Allen, who was a reasonable signing, probably would have slotted in somewhere in the back line, did his ACL. So not a great preseason for them. I'm glad they got Leilua. There's sort of some question marks around how much he's getting paid and is he worth it, although the Cowboys are paying some of his contract as well. So, they've done well there. Hame Sele's not no slouch coming over from the Rabbits. He probably gets a bench spot. But the big question is how's Kyle Flanagan going to play under his dad? He was a product. There was a time a few years ago when he was at the Chooks where I was like, he's going to be the next big thing.
Yep.
And, for whatever reason, injury was part of it. Wasn't able to play week in and week out. And again, it's much like the Luke Brooks question, like, is he a talented footballer that got stuck in a poor system?
Yeah.
The difference is that Brooks is going into a pretty reasonable system, whereas Kyle Flanagan...
Was it? Well, he was in a reasonable system at the Roosters.
Yeah, for sure. That is true. And
but they were like... They obviously... I don't want to say saw something in him and just said, no, he's not going to be good, and booted him. But that's kind of like went... They saw, Sam Walker and another guy come up and they went, I think we don't need him anymore. And they let him go. And he tried his best at the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs were like, he really doesn't fit with us and it's not going to work out. So His dad essentially given him the lifeline. Luckily for him, he doesn't have to be the dude that he had to be in the Bulldogs. He can palm that off. That's Ben Hunt's role. So, which hopefully, like we're saying with Luke Brooks, that DCE is going to do that. That frees him up just to play his natural game and I guess get back to enjoying his footy versus the constant, hammering he's been getting the last couple of years about his capability and about how his leadership and how he goes about it. So.
Yeah, 100%. He's got this season to try and soak up every single second of being playing inside Ben Hunt and if it is Hunt's last year at the Dragons, which is highly probable. Hopefully preparing him to be the guy next year. Yeah. But I think that's the biggest thing for them is how Flanagan fits into the system, and God forbid Ben Hunt get hurt. How he was
gets hurt, wants to disappear. He's going to be gone for Origin period. So they're going to have to figure out what to do when he's not there. And there's not a lot of great talent, unfortunately, to pick on. And they've made some changes. I think, is Lomax going to play in the wing?
Yeah, so in the trials he's playing out on the wing. So it's
much for paying him as a fullback. And
it's all. There's a few things at play here.
He's on big coin, and he's
first thing is that Flanagan seems to be saying Tyrell Sloan is going to be our man with the one on his back. Dragons fans in the comments often will stick the boot into Paul Tyrrell. He's only young and he's got to grow into his body. There's been some defensive howlers through the preseason and through last year that he'll need to work on. Having said that, when he's got the ball in his hand in the open field, he looks electric. Like he looks like, we can actually get some points out of this guy, and they've really struggled to score points over the last few years. And no one really looks likely outside of Ben Hunt being able to create or score himself.
Exactly.
So I don't mind the continued Sloan experiment. It does seem like a little bit of a waste with Lomax going out to the wing, but this recruitment of edge-back rowers is kind of forcing it. Leilua comes in, who wasn't there obviously last year, and Tom Eisenhuth is no slouch either from the Storm. So Jack Bird was playing in the centres, and that pushed Lomax out onto the wings. So I imagine if the trials and the team list is anything to go off.
Do you want to run them through the list? Because I'm now interested. Where's Jack Bird going to be playing?
So I think this is the way that they'll line up. And Monks, if you've got the zero tackle one there, just to go off it as well. I've got them as Sloan, Ravalawa, Bird, Sawley, Lomax. That's often how they were going in the trial games. Flanagan 6, Ben Hunt 7. Front rowers Blake Laurie, Francis Bolo, hooker Jacob Little. One edge will be definitely Jaden Sewer, and then barring the first couple of games of suspension, I think Luciano Leilua play the other edge. Jack DeBellin locks down the 13 jersey for sure. I think Hamo Sele coming across from Rabbits will be on the bench for sure, probably with Michael Molo, Toby Couchman, and I want to talk a little bit about Vilami Fafita. He's my one to watch this season. He's a 23-year-old big middle coming over from Blacktown, and is tipped to maybe be getting a bench spot even as early as round one, but definitely keep an eye out for him, Vilami Fafita. Depth is a real concern. We talk about it with other teams, and
if you look at
the fact that the Dragons are my own team, I really got to put that out of my mind.
You look at that.
Depth is concerning.
Yeah, you look at the outs, and they did look. It might be not the top tier talent, but it's talent for Dragons. It's talent that you'd really not be losing.
Billy Burns is pretty handy.
Yep.
Josh Kerr is pretty handy. Moses Mbai, although probably on the twilight of his career, was playing a starting or as a 14 last year. Zane Musgrove, I don't know, they bring him in, he only plays a year and he goes. Bud Sullivan, we'll get to the Tigers in a second, there's a whole swart of guys that were in their starting 17 last year that have gone.
Yep.
So yes, they some of that is negated with their ins. You know, Leilua, Flanagan, Selle probably all be starting 1 to 17 when they come in. But it's going to be interesting. Raymond Fatola Moreno as well is an interesting signing. Was the club captain at the Bulldogs.
Yep.
Not the most talented guy in the world, but maybe bringing him over for some leadership and maybe slots into a bench position there. But look, I'm looking at it with red and white glasses. I think the Tigers are worse. The trial game, yes, albeit a trial, was essentially their strongest going at it, and that could be the spoon bowl again this year. is the Tigers and Dragons. So strap yourself in when that blockbuster rolls around.
So the big difference I see in that list is Jack Bird's in the second row.
Yeah, so they've got Bird in the second row. That doesn't have that's after Leilua. I think Leilua will come in there with Jack Bird possibly playing in the centres and Lomax out on the wing. That's how they line up in trials. So that's how I can go off it. I don't know. Maybe Bird will play as an edge or
depends what sort of shape or what size he's in.
Yeah,
because he kind of fluctuates depending on what they ask him to do.
He's pretty good.
Yeah,
like he's a premiership winning player and got a fair bit of mongrel in him.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're looking strictly at ins and outs, it's a little concerning.
Yep.
Silver lining, Hunt is on contract until 2025. But whether he plays through to 2025.
So that's Dan Riccio there of Daily Telegraph and SEN fame. He said his belief is he's not there next year. So be interesting. That was halfway through last year that Ben Hunt's out the door next week was what was being reported.
Well, they went into Origin camp and he was talking to those boys and he was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, so how much of that is real and how much of is that the rugby league circus in the media?
Yeah, I think the deal to go to the Broncos to play 9 was a done deal, and then to go play for the Dolphins next season. Well, this season. Yeah, I think it was all ready to go, barring the Dragons signing off on letting him go. And the 11th hour, they said, should we really get rid of our best player with no return?
No.
So I guess some common sense prevailed on their end.
Good.
But the question will be, does he get disgruntled at all, especially if they're losing bulk games to start the season?
My concern is next year.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more worried about next year than
Need to
this
find
year.
some talent.
The last few years, it's always been Dragons will be spoon or there or thereabouts, and it hasn't eventuated. It went fucking close last year. I think whilst Ben Hunt's there and healthy, I don't think they're a wooden spoon team. But I also they are my team, so maybe I've got to just wake up in the morning and believe that.
Well, I've been believing, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years they'll be the spoon, so maybe it's this year.
Anything else to add there, Max?
No, not really. I think, covered pretty much everything.
Anyone there who's not in those projected teams that you like the look of? I think Tom Eisenhuth is a pretty handy player. Whenever you bring someone out of a Melbourne system, you got to be reasonably happy with them. Ben Murdoch-Masila came across from the Warriors. He's older. I'm not saying these guys are premiership winning guys, but there's a little bit of experience there at least.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's it. Sort of just building on the experience they have and sort of bringing up some of these younger players as well.
Yeah, the Couchman brothers, we're talking about brothers before, they were pretty handy last year. They're only young. They're only going to get better. But, when you look at the 18 through 30 in the list, it's a little concerning. And given one of them's gone with an ACL and one's Cody Ramsey, who is still on the list, but he's struggling with his ulcerative colitis, there's a big question mark around depth.
Yep.
That'll do for the Dragons. I don't think we need 20 minutes on the wooden spooner. Let's get into a top 8 squad. Let's talk about the Chooks.
All right, they're paying 8-1 to win the whole thing. That might have come in after today's performance.
Ooh, yeah.
The Chooks finished 7th last year, 13 and 11. There was a good portion where they looked like they might miss the 8 and really got things together in the last month. They finished 6th the year before. I've gone really quite bullish on them. I've got them finishing 2nd. I really think they're a top 4 team at least. You guys have got them just fringe?
Yeah. And for me, that kind of really depends on how Souths go. Like if Souths start to struggle again, I'd switch those two, and the Chooks can roll straight into that list.
Yeah, I put a lot of pressure on Whiten and the Souths just taking that next step up.
Yeah, so I feel like that's it. But Roosters are kind of like the Storm; they're always going to be competitive and be good at the in that top list. They perennially annually always make the top 8, so I think they'll do so again. I think the big thing for them was probably the thing that really caused them issues last year was the health of their halves. So, they're probably one of the teams that has some of the more undersized halves. But on their day when they're firing, they're at the top of the list for a team with a spine. Tedesco looked washed last year was probably another big thing. He looked really good today.
Looked on fire today.
So whether he had niggles he dealt with all last year or something like that, who knows? But he looked healthy and had plenty of spring in his step. So if they can keep that going, and if was Cheese their number one choice at 9, so again that's add him. That's a pretty tasty spine for the Chooks, and they're going to win a lot of football games with those guys all healthy, firing. So I think they can be. Anything. I think 5 is probably like a safe kind of spot, but like you've got them 2, they could definitely end up being there again. Another team that stay healthy, go on a run.
Part of me also having them 2 is a real disdain for the Broncos. I'm being completely honest there. But they did get the bickies over the Broncos today. The big name signings, Spencer Leniu coming across from the Panthers, and Dom Young, who missed today through injury. He should feature a little bit later in the year.
And they're going to potentially have some big outs next year as well, with Suwali, of course, going to rugby, and then Joseph,
he was electric today, but there's no sort of certainty around Joseph Manu's
he seems he's off contract, and he's like, it's weird. Like, I can't get a deal, so I got to go play rugby. Like, that's how you read the headline, but you obviously you can probably get a deal, but maybe it's not the sort of coin that he thinks he's worth.
Rugby will throw insane money.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So maybe do that for a couple of years, get the super up, and then come back.
So maybe it is this year or bust. We're saying with the Warriors, with AFB going and ageing Sean Johnson, we're saying in the last vid that this is really peak window for them. Maybe Roosters somewhat in the similar boat.
But having said that, the Roosters can find talent from elsewhere, so I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, it's interesting. Teddy and Keary aren't getting any younger. Like you said, Teddy looked like a step slower last year. But if today's anything to go off, Teddy look well and truly back.
Yep, agreed.
Some of the bigger names in the outs, we mentioned Corey Allen, Fletcher Baker goes to the Bronx, Drew Hutchinson over the Dogs, Matt Lodge over to Manly, Paul Momorowski's going to Super League, Jackson Paulo goes to the Seagulls, Jake Turpin to the Dogs. Is a big sort of cleaning out of a lot of the sort of tier 2 guys from their list.
And the older dudes as well, so in that kind of list. They still got a good squad. Dom didn't play today, did he?
No, he's out hurt.
Yeah, that's right. He had the concussion.
Yep. One to watch is that Su'a Wong playing on the edge. I think a lot of Supercoach and fantasy guys will be keeping an eye on him. Could be anything. So one to watch there, Su'a Wong. There's a few guys in the one to watch with some Asian heritage there, amongst them. So let's keep an eye on them.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, into the Tigers. Same as the Dragons, 126-1 to win the whole thing. They've been 4-20 meat pies last 2 seasons, winning just 4 games. Got them a spoon in both seasons. They come last in 2022, and you think, oh, well, can't get any worse. Well, they had another team, and they come 17th. So, it did get worse for them last season. In some reasonable names, they've also got some big outs. Justin Olam comes across from the Storm. Aiden Caesar, who Canberra people know pretty well, former Raider and more recently with Leeds, comes over. Bud Sullivan, Jaden Sullivan, who I've seen a lot of as a Dragons fan, most likely going to get the 6 jumper And they've got this big winger, Solomon Ailamolo, coming across from Rugby. He's like it's kind of like a Daniel Tupu kind of 196 centimetre winger kind of build. So wingers probably don't win your comps if your spine's no good, but he looks like he might be reasonable. Also got the Fainu brothers coming over from Manly, Latu and Samuela. So Latu in particular, young half, could
play for them.
Yeah, could be a reasonable player at some stage. Been over the big out. Luke Brooks goes over to Manly. They do lose Sean Bloor to the Storm. Outside of that, Dane Laurie, a few wingers in Momola and Nofaluma. And then some fringe guys in Tommy Talau, Brennan Wakeham on the way out too.
Joe Offengowie wasn't. He did play Origin at one point. So
yeah, he's a good player. He went last seat. He'd already played games with the Eels last year, so it's not.
It was back end of the year.
That's right. It's not a true out, but from the team that was there 12 months ago, had all the stuff with Nofaluma and not wanting to go to training, and kind of played his cards. And Offengowie, like you said, was an Origin guy at one stage. So there are a few big outs. Dane Laurie as well, who if it wasn't for Jareen Buller looking so good at the back end of last year, they'd probably be a little bit more concerned about him going out.
Yep.
Sacked the entire board back in December. Yep. So again, much like the Bulldogs with, knocking the whole thing down and starting again. Looks like that's what the Tigers will be doing through the coming years. And they sort of are in a different camp to the Bulldogs, where it's back-to-back spoons now, and it's really starting to get quite dicey. And I think Benji will be probably feeling a fair bit of the pressure, at least from the media. From round one. They have a bye round one, maybe from round two.
They won their first game.
They got 2 points.
It's interesting that Richardson, who's acting at the moment for them as CEO, said a couple of months ago that they're going to be pretty quick to put in the next senior management going forward, and it still hasn't happened. So I wonder, he's well respected. I wonder if he's also maybe angling for that job long term. Which would be interesting. Whether the board would allow that. So, again, more backroom stories and politics that could affect the Tigers. But like you said, hopefully Benji can get this squad going. And they obviously want to play for him. He's managed to sign some guys that want to play for him. So hopefully they can put together a good quality squad and win some games.
My concern is you come last and you bring in a new, unproven halves pairing.
Well, where's Adam Dewey going to play?
Well, he's not going to be back. Can you go? Actually, I've got a casualty ward here. It'll be middle of the season before Dewey's even close. I would think. They've just got that doesn't help. It's knee indefinite.
When did he do it?
About halfway through last year. From memory.
So what we talking like June?
Yeah,
it's like the first gets us about to That's 8 months to there, but when was it?
His return of play is 12 to 16 months. That doesn't help.
That was from April last year.
12 to 16 months.
Yeah, so May, June kind of thing. It's the first. It's like at least the first 2 months that he's not playing.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be Sullivan and Caesar.
Yeah, I'd say so.
For the first few, and if you start 1 and 7, how much is Adam Dewey going to be able to do? He is electric at best.
Do you want to rush him back, etc.?
100%.
Put him in there.
Their forward pack on paper should be good.
Yes.
Stefano played Origin. Coruscant is happy. John Bateman at when he was at the Raiders was one of the hardest edges getting around. Papali's a freak. Clemmer getting long in the tooth, but still good. They've got a reasonably formidable pack, at least on paper. Justin Olam's a good get, when he's on. He's one of the hardest hitting centres there is. Getting around. Jareen Buller is young, but looked very good in some of those games, particularly towards the back end of last year. Yeah, I just got a lot of questions around a team that come last and bring in 2 new halves.
Yeah,
it's a lot of pressure for them.
Yeah, I'd just say for me, looking at that list compared to the Dragons, like they've got more name value.
Their forward pack's better on paper.
I think there's more name value there. Whereas I look at the Dragons and I go like, this team's been hunt. Like,
who the fuck is that guy? And again, that's maybe a little bit of personal bias as well, where I watch him week in and week out. And I'm like, how the fuck do you not know who Toby Couchman is, bruh? But yeah, that's completely reasonable criticism. When you look at them, you know, their pack in particular.
Should be giving them a good platform. So hopefully those guys, new half pairing, can get some space, get some room.
But also, none of those guys are new. You know,
they're all.
Coruscant was there last year. Clemmer was there last year. Bateman was there last year. Papali'i was there last year. If you've got the best pack in the comp, doesn't mean anything if your halves are no good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can give you the best platform, but if you can't score points out the back of it, then you're just wasting it.
And again, but Bud Sullivan's a handy little player. Like he's young and really good in attack.
Will look good.
Caesar's experienced, you know, so they're going to have that sort of mix of old and young in the halves. But I just think it's a lot to ask of guys to come in, particularly given all the constant media scrutiny of Luke Brooks. And I think this year will be a nice fuck you year for Luke Brooks to show, well, look, I'm actually pretty good at footy.
Yeah, it was the Tigers.
That's it.
Anyways, I've got him getting a spoon. You've got him 16?
16th, and I had him 16th.
I
have a 16th, you have 15th.
15, yeah. I guess, well, hopefully more than just a step above last season. I think,
above the Dragons.
We'll see if that one comes back to bite me. No, I think, just reading notes here, it's going to be a big year for John Bateman. He really needs to prove himself second year in the Tigers.
Well, last year was all about will he, won't he? Was he going to play and show up? And he didn't. He played pretty well, but he's got to continue that.
Yeah, that's it.
So on good coin.
Who's zero tackle got there as a rising star? Josh Felitti?
Yes, Josh Felitti.
Position? Age?
Josh Felitti is 19 centres. Yeah,
it could certainly be pushing for a centre's position. You think Olam will definitely have one. Stafford Toa, not bad on his day, but one to keep an eye on there is Felitti.
Yeah, I agree.
That's it.
All right, let's talk about the Vegas games. So 40,000 in there at Allegiant Stadium today. Pretty good considering, 10 days ago they were concerned that only 20,000 tickets had been sold. It was pretty windy outside the ground. Luckily, it's a nice lush grass to play inside. Some pretty concerning pictures of the in-goal and how close it was to the concrete pre-game. Luckily, no one went out the back of it and got hurt.
It wasn't like it was wet or anything. It like slippery and slide all the way out the back.
Can't get
it's not Super League, so
There was one moment in the Broncos Roosters games where Tupou went down the sideline and got a bit of a shove straight into the wall.
Walsh got him.
Or a cameraman or something. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Because that got called as a shoulder charge, and I don't like you're defending your goal line. I don't really know what Reece Walsh is meant to do in that situation.
But it wasn't like a Sonny Bill shoulder charge motion.
Nah,
it was. Yes, he led with the shoulder, which I guess is the definition for the rule. But he's thrown his body at him to try and prevent the try, and he's done it. So I think he'll happily take the penalty, and they'll keep going. And
I think Billy Slater was saying post game as well, it's more dangerous for him to put his head on his hip or head in front there
which is classic from Billy coming because he led with the knees. So
love hearing that from a Queensland fucking origin.
Well, that was when he played for the Storm, bro.
Never.
He didn't do it for Queensland.
He did it for Queensland only when he's played for the Storm.
That's a belly take that one. Well, they ruled that out, of course. Kind of throwing the legs in to try and mess up where he's putting the ball down. But you're right. Like if he's coming across, like if he's got his head
mile
down,
an hour split second decision.
Yeah, it's you're in hip and knee territory. So you can cop something like that. You kind of want to try and force him and hit him up high. So not much you can do.
Joe Manu's flick pass was pretty amazing. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward if it's rugby or one of the more lowly clubs that offers lots of money.
It's a small sideline, no. At least he didn't go down the stairs. Jeez.
Yeah, bloody oath. That's kind of lucky.
That's just
something they're going to have to, because they've got a 5-year deal with this stadium, so it's super tight there.
It really looked like a shoulder charge, though.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a shoulder charge live. When you slow it down, it is his shoulder that makes contact.
Exactly.
But
and his arm's not 100% tucked, but it is tucked. Like if his arm's out away from his body a little bit more, it looks like a wrap. But then that's more likely to do him damage as well. That's how you pop your shoulder out. So like I said, I think you'll be happy to prevent the try and take the penalty there.
100%. Chooks did look good, get the win 20-10. It was sort of marred by some allegations of racial abuse coming from Spencer Lenu. First game, gets thrown a big contract, and allegedly has said something to Ezra Meehan, so we'll see how that all washes out. There'll certainly be some evidence given.
I think I saw something as we were starting potty that the Roosters were saying, essentially apologising. So whether that's, in the apology they're admitting guilt, we'll see what comes out of that in the coming days.
Manly won the early game against South. Triple turbo, looked good. We've already spoken about Brooks and DCE looking good, and Olakwatu, him. So
and Alex Johnson scores tries, water is wet,
etc., etc. Had previously mentioned Cohen Hess and Tom Gilbert, thinking with them and their ACL rehabs.
Penrith did lose the World Cup. Club champion?
Club challenge.
Club challenge, yeah.
They have never won it.
Yes.
They've got the worst record in the World Club Challenge ever. And I reckon they give zero fucks about it, if I'm being completely honest. Yes. But they did lose. There was a quite questionable call made in that as well.
Yeah, it's catching that cricket ball like James does.
Nearly went blind.
Sorry. And that kind of leads into the chat about Super League potentially being up for sale, Rugby League potentially wanting to buy it and move it to back to a winter sport, then to the kind of where's it in the moment, like summer, spring, I think making a winter sport.
Well, no, it's starting at the moment, but it runs into their summer.
Yes, yeah. So spring, summer for them, but we'll make it more of a winter sport, which supposedly, from what I've seen, is the fans would like that. Seems like it's got a reasonable price tag, and the NRL is firing on cylinders at the moment with money. So, they might be interested in that. But I have seen that outside of buying Super League, maybe they should get more involved in the rest of Europe, because it looks like Catalans essentially is funding a lot of the other teams to play in their league to keep them afloat. I read something that they were paying for all their travel of all the other teams so they could keep the season going. Would be cheaper, but again, looking to expand the game versus buying a well-established league. But the well-established league probably makes more money than the other leagues in Europe. But there's potential growth. And a rugby league is a global sport.
Yeah.
If the horseman gets his way, you'll see what happens.
I'm just trying to get the grand final time up for it. They've started, so it does start in their winter.
Yep.
But it's
so they're in week 3 now.
Even just go off their final last year if you don't have a date for this year.
Yeah,
I'll look at that. Yeah, just go to 2023 Super League grand final. It's hard though, because it's like soccer over here is a summer sport because they don't want it to clash with the big football codes. Yeah, exactly. So they've got the opposite problem over there of rugby league clashing with soccer or football. It's not soccer, mate. It's football. Yeah. Grand final was there, 14th of October. It's right around ours.
Yeah.
So it pretty much mirrors our season.
But I did see that they've done deals with televising here as well, so you'll get more on ESPN, KO, etc. Also helps them grow into America, which we've also done deals. So NRL's also done deals with ESPN, etc. So more rugby league games on your television across the globe.
Yeah. Catalan plays in the Super League.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Are they helping fund other teams?
They could be. They could be.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and see if I can find that article.
Yeah.
Read a bit
interesting.
More. But yeah, it's it's not a huge league, not making fuckloads of money like we're saying, because they've competing against the big soccer leagues, football leagues.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose because they look like they're probably the only French team there, so maybe they are funding teams to come play in France. So maybe that's it. Yeah. So if you get NRL to dump a whole heap of money into it, can you expand the league from 12 to 14, 16 maybe, add a couple of French teams in there and then have a bit of a bigger competition?
give more avenue for the older guys that maybe can't hold down an NRL spot to at least still be applying their talents elsewhere.
Yeah.
Could definitely see Peter V'landys and Andrew Abdo going, guess what? Perth, Papua, we got you some spots. You're going to England. Enjoy.
Yeah.
All right, watch this space. Super League may get bought by the NRL.
Yeah.
All right, should we talk some cricket?
Yes, let's do it.
Australia rules at cricket, end of segment, the end. No, if it wasn't really for Cam Green and Nathan Lyon, it might have been a very different looking test match.
Pitch had a fair bit in it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it looked very green, although it was
It's also turned a fair bit.
There was the spinners that did the damage much more so than the quicks. New Zealand won the toss, sent us in, and we made 383, nearly half of that coming off the bat of Cameron Green, 174 not out, his breakout test, big 100, and he looked...
repaying the faith and picking him
Yeah,
forward.
exactly right. He looked like everything that he's been hammed up to be.
Yep. Yeah.
Thoughts around the knock, boys?
Electric, and I think, really took well to the Kiwi grounds. I think any of the swingy, any of the bounce he kind of took a liking to, hit 5-6s in that, lots of falls. Anything that was kind of head high, he was just smacking it all over the place. So I feel like, the style probably suited him really, really well, which was interesting because it's a stark contrast to say how he went in the Ashes where, the short stuff was really giving him trouble. So I think, he's got some confidence. I guess picking him at 4, they'll put some confidence in him, confident in his ability. That's hopefully helped him, and they've repaid it, like I said, and he's gone out there and shown what he can do.
Yeah, perfect choice of words there, repaying the faith. Some question marks are around, can you have Green and Marsh in this team? Are they too like for like? I've certainly seen a few people.
I like it when they bat. I like when they bat together. Bash brothers out there,
100%. Well, I think
the big fellas.
He's been earmarked obviously from a young age. Big Cam Green, he can bat, he can bowl, he can field in the gully, and he can obviously go out and make big tons when his team really needs him. Because they were 4 for 89 at one stage here. The first session and a half. New Zealand certainly on top, and then Cam Green has gone out and absolutely carried us through the first innings to get us to 383.
Yeah, well, I wonder if, because Marsh did come out as well and was playing with him and
playing his natural game,
really, really going after it, and again, whether they gave him a bit of confidence and it was like, these blokes are hittable, like I can definitely play here, and he went on to follow on from that and put on a big score.
Well, Green and Marsh had the second best partnership in the game.
And right in that middle period.
Only second Green and Hazelwood.
Yeah. Well, we spoke earlier in the show about how we've struggled to dismiss number 11s, and it was the opposite. Josh Hazelwood stuck around for 148 minutes. And the partnership was worth, 120 nearly? So
116.
Yeah, so incredible for Hazelwood to stick around, and needs some credit there as well to playing the supporting role there.
Yep.
Matt Henry, 5 for 70, best of the Kiwi bowlers, and we were well on top at the start of the New Zealand innings. They looked like they were going to struggle to make 100 at one stage, with our quicks all sharing some of the opening scalps. Obviously, the big one was the run out of Kane Williamson. We'd spoken about him over the last few months, and he'd scored 7 tons in 7 test matches, not 7 consecutive, but 7 in 7. And I was a little worried about his form as an Aussie fan coming into this one. But big wicket there, and obviously Ravinja goes for a duck, and when they're 4 for 29, 5 for 29 with Will Young gets out, you think, oh, fuck, here comes another 3-day test.
Yeah. And what did you... Well, let's go to William, back to the run out. What did you think of the run out?
Yeah, it's a shit show, really. Good fielding, though.
Yeah.
Do you think Stark got involved too much? They had to run around him?
Nah. Maybe green and gold glasses on. Yeah. I'm going to say no.
I don't... Realistically, did it matter? Marnus, knocking it down. He's struggling with the bat, but he can field. That's for sure. So I think it was okay. And then the thing I saw, I'm pretty sure it was Kane's averaging 30 against Australia, India and England, but averaging 60 against everyone else.
Yeah. He's got that flat track bully getting thrown at him as well, because that was one of the points that someone made as well. He's made 7 in 7 tests, and look at who they've played. And it's been South Africa Bees, Bangladesh. I think there was England at the start of it, perhaps. Maybe it was Pakistan. Anyway, certainly the more recent ones were a very under-strength South Africa team and Bangladesh. Stark's close to him, but
he doesn't get involved in there. But I think he had to go around Stark, and then the choice of direction he chose to go around Stark, he then hit his own.
I don't think that's Stark's fault. So. And look, it's not like it's cost him 6 inches.
Yeah.
They've just barbecued each other.
Yeah. Well, I think that helps. I think the description was Will Young was ball watching and just ran into Williamson, so it's probably more on them not communicating properly.
Barbecues on, bah.
So they get 179, so there's 200 run lead there for the Australians.
Yeah, and it was really of Glenn Phillips and Matt Henry, little cameo knock there, scoring the bulk of their runs. The GOAT, 4 for 43, he finished with 10 for in the match. We'll get to him in just a second. Follow-on could have been enforced. We chose not to enforce. Thoughts around that decision?
Probably in hindsight, it was maybe the right option because they needed to get some batting done because they need some practice, I think, the batting boys, especially when is that Nathan Lyon, the GOAT, is your top scorer?
Yeah, he was gunning for his first 50. He never got one in
Test
cricket. He's got the most runs ever.
1,500, I think.
Brought up his 1,500th, that's right. Jeez, I thought he was going to get his first maiden Test 50 here.
So Steve Smith chops on.
Yep, a little unlucky, but...
Averaging, I think he was averaging 50 till he got out there, so he would have knocked
pretty
down.
high 40s as an opener.
But of course, that's 6 innings with only 2 scores, being the 90 and the 30 in the last one. Yeah, everything else has been low, either single digits or low teens.
Yep. So. Did carry his bat. Against the Windies, I think.
Again, who else is banging at the door? I think the question you go to Marnus, 1 century in his last 37 innings. What do we think about Marnus? Like we said, he can field. He's been struggling with the bat of late.
Yeah, there's starting to be some conjecture around his position amongst Australian cricket pundits. I think it would be absolutely absurd to drop him for this Test, given now after this we go into a T20 World Cup and into our summer. I think if Marnus's spot's in jeopardy, it's not until the summer of 24-25.
So if we're looking ahead, it's just is there anyone ready to slot into 3?
Well, they've played their hand too as well in when Warner retired and we were thinking, does it Bancroft or does it Renshaw, does it Harris, does a specialist opener get the gig, or will they go with Green and Marsh in the same team who are like for like players? And I think we said at the time, I said, Bancroft probably has the runs on the board in the Shield to warrant his selection, and I think he will play Test cricket again. But for mine, Cam Green is in our best 6 sticks, regardless of his batting, regardless of his bowling and fielding accolades, and he's shown it in this Test match. So I think they played their hand.
But does Marnus form reopen that conversation? And
then reshuffle the order again when Smudge has already gone up and has changed his game to try and become an opener.
Yeah, well, do you put Smudge back to that middle there? Like maybe he's goes to 3 and then you bring in the opener.
I think we're playing too much mental gymnastics just to even make it happen. I would just rather, reward.
He needs some form, I think.
Of course. I'm not going to argue the fact that he's not in good form, but I also think the Australian public has a really bad problem with recency bias and loves to...
1 century and 37 innings.
That's not a lot. No. That's not a lot at all.
That's a lot of innings.
What's his Test average? Does he still average 50?
Yes.
I think he started so well that he's probably bought himself a little bit more time. Yeah. I'm happy to have the conversation. If we get to Boxing Day, or the New Year's Test, and
he's still scoring single figures,
and he's still struggling, I'm happy to have the conversation then. I just don't see we've already retained this this series. I don't see what benefit there would be
Touch under 50 is average.
in a full rebuild, a full reshuffle rather for this test, and then we don't play Test cricket again for close to 8 months.
No, I don't think anything's going to happen. I just think going into the next test, if again no runs, it's a long time for people to consider what the future's going to look like for the summer of cricket.
Pressure building for sure.
Yeah, whether outside of the World Cup, does he must play a bulk shield cricket as well in the background to at least get those experiences, get more confidence and get the runs on the board.
Cam Bancroft goes, wait, what the fuck? What are his shield runs?
Exactly.
He's still as of this test, his average has finally dropped below 50. He's averaging 49.6, and it's a testament to how well he started his career. In that you said he's only got one century in the last 37. So quick maths, in his first 50 test matches, he made 10 hundreds.
Yep.
So he had one of the best starts to a cricketing career you could ever hope for. I'm not going to deny the fact that he's in a shit run of form, but I think he's safe until India in our summer, and then if he struggles in the first and second tests, I'm happy to have the conversation then.
Yep.
So looking at the last couple of seasons, he's averaged 33 last year, and then started this year's 22, 23. So
and what's the season before that?
71.
And the season before that?
49.
And the season before that?
Yeah, I get.
What did it say?
38.
Yeah.
Where's the 100?
Yeah, but that was 5 years ago, bro.
19, 20.
The last 2 years, what have you done recently for me?
I don't know. That's
4
years ago. He's averaging 119.
Yeah,
it's hard.
And there's a 70 in there as well. So
it is a hard conversation to have.
Yeah, it's always the thing. It's anything in sports. It's always what have you done recently for me? So,
Yep. And I think the selectors will remember what he did
What he has
longer than recently. Yes. Having said that, pressure building needs runs. We'd love to see it in a second test.
Oh, definitely.
Should we talk about Nathan Lyon?
Yeah, so we then we didn't do great, as we were saying. We get 164, a lot of single digits in there, as we mentioned. Who was the Phillips? Phillips took 5.
Yeah, he took 5 for he's a part-time offie.
Yeah, so
probably indicative of what the deck was doing.
Showed some turn. It's like, the Kiwis, they've got a lot of time, and 380. It's 383, I think it was the lead they had to get to.
Not impossible. The game wasn't going to finish in a draw.
No, but you think if Phillips is getting bulk wickets, you think the GOAT can do something.
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned. I was like, I wouldn't mind having a 450 lead, but if they're part-time offies skittling us, I think when they Nathan Lyon will be licking his lips.
Yeah, when they finished last night at, I think they were 3 down with 113 scored from memory. It's like, they're still within shouting distance, but Nathan Lyon put him to the sword today and ran through him.
Big time, 6 for 65 for the GOAT. Only a little bit of resistance from Ravindra, 59, Daryl Mitchell, 38. Pretty handy player, that Daryl Mitchell. He's shown us what he can do in white ball cricket over the last few years. And
Ravindra looks like a talent they might have unearthed.
Bloody oath. We saw his coming out party in the World Cup and hasn't fully translated that into the red ball format just yet, but only 6 tests in and still averaging 39, so nothing to sneeze at. It's that ODIs where he's really starting to look like an incredible talent, averaging 41, striking at 108.
Yeah, still super young, and it could be anything.
100%.
So what, Nathan Lyon finished with
10 for the match.
10 for the match, and 6 in the second innings, and like I said, put him to the sword, and Australia win. Australia good. I think it's that 9 tests in a row out of no loss, because there was 1 draw in that run, I think, from memory. What I saw.
Did we just lose the West Indies?
Oh, you are right. So what are you talking about?
I don't know.
Your story.
Maybe deleted it from your memory like me.
No, it was Cricket Australia, I think we're putting that out.
Then no, because...
Or maybe it's a New Zealand thing.
Yeah, we haven't lost to New Zealand for ages.
Maybe that was what I saw. Let's see what I can find for stats.
And I'm looking at when the second test kicks off in Christchurch.
2 weeks?
March 8. So
that's this week. 5 days.
Yes.
It's Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Quick maths.
Back to back.
Yeah, I don't know what you're looking for. But I know that we haven't lost to New Zealand for a long time, so maybe that was it.
Yeah, I feel that's probably it.
Whilst you're looking for that, Ireland win their first Test match ever. They do it against Afghanistan. Did it pretty quickly when it comes to some of the other Test nations and how long they had to wait. I was astounded that New Zealand didn't win a Test for their first 45 Test matches going back. It was interesting as well. I suppose in those days they were really just playing us and England, maybe a bit of India, but that's a long time without winning one. Bangladesh had to wait 35 Test matches for their first Test win. India 25, also surprising. Sri Lanka 14, South Africa 12, Zimbabwe 11. Ireland have done it in 8. And Australia, always, goat of cricket, father of India, always. Did it in our first Test match back in 1877. Have you got Australia versus New Zealand?
I'm bringing up stuff.
Stuff? What kind of stuff?
I can't find anything. So.
Yeah, so
you've got our recent record.
Yeah, they lost to Windies. So if I bring up New
Yeah.
Zealand now,
What I saw was
we also lost 2 to India not that long ago as well.
yeah, true.
Yeah, it must be New Zealand. That probably makes more sense. But I can't find anything.
There we go. We haven't lost to New Zealand since 2011.
There you go. Yeah,
So there's a few.
Is there a draw there?
That's everywhere, isn't it? That's here and
everywhere.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one draw 2015.
Yeah, that'll be it.
In that run as well, since 2000, we've only lost to New Zealand once. With a handful of draws sprinkled in there.
But it's been ages since we've played in New Zealand as
8
well.
years, I think.
Yeah,
I think there was
considering how close they are, you would have thought we'd play a bit more cricket against
Well,
them.
you know why it happens, because then we're never going to give up Boxing Day, New Year's Test, so it's got to be a fringe. It's got to be like in November or March.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like it is now.
Yeah, exactly. And COVID, I think, fucked the last tour, so I think that's why they haven't played for so long.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why it ended up being 8 years.
Yep.
Poor Will Pekoski, we've got to talk about it. Hit in the head again today. We're just watching it. Riley Meredith, it's probably not someone that you want to cop one from. Bowls 150 on the reg. Sort of talking about it pre-show about certainly something going on with his ducking.
There has to be something technically
wrong.
wrong.
Is it technical? Is it a reflexes thing? Is it it keeps happening? Is it a fear thing? Is that playing into it?
The dude hit a century.
It was so good. It was so sick. He's back. He's made 100. Give him another 6 months or a county season in England, and we'll be talking about him in that conversation for coming in. Aussie's got to need a replacement at some stage in the coming years, and he just gets hit again.
It's his second ball, so maybe it was just saying he wasn't expecting the pace and the pitch or something. It's a pretty green pitch by the looks of it. Whether that played into it at all, but for a guy that, like I said, scored a century a week ago, was probably got a bunch of short stuff in that innings. He's obviously just completely missed this one. Really didn't get under it at all, and taking it on the side of the face. Yeah,
he doesn't get low.
Yeah, not at all. And I wonder if he just missed it completely. He's just freshly come in and he's getting some fire bolts at him.
Yeah, that's someone that's got a better cricketing brain than what we do. Probably needs to analyse it and see if it's a technique thing or if it's a reflexes thing or if it's a mental thing.
Yeah, because he doesn't back away. He doesn't really get down low.
He just wears it straight in that left jaw grill.
Yep.
Goes straight down. Concern shown from Meredith, and umpire calls for the medical team pretty quick. So
retired hurt after.
Retired hurt. Wishing him a speedy recovery, and that's probably his Shield season done, given it's March.
Yeah, well,
that's hard to watch as well.
He did get hit about a month ago as well, and has played since then. So it'll depend. Does he have any symptoms, or did the helmet do his job?
With concussion.
Yeah, did the helmet do his job and absorb it all, and he'll be okay. But you would have to see. Those things hurt, that's for sure.
Yep.
That's about it for cricket.
Yep.
See how we go in this second test, and if we can continue that unbeaten run against New Zealand for a long, long time. They can have their rugby record. All right, we're going to mix up this back end of the show a little bit, given how heavy a rugby league show it was. Yep. We're going to do UFC 299 and then into a final round, which has got a bit of mix and match. But give us a final round. UFC 299 is on next weekend in Miami. Sugar Sean O'Malley going against the guy that's never beaten him, apparently. And he's got the rematch against Marlon Chito Vera. That is...
Can you find out how long ago that fight was, by the way?
It'll be a couple of years, I reckon. Monksy, can you chase that up? I'll run through quickly the rest of the card. Lightweight, Dustin Poirier against this up-and-coming Frenchman, Benoit Saint-Denis. A couple of welterweight fights, Kevin Holland, Michael Page, and a big one for Aussie fight fans with Gilbert Burns taking on Jack Della Maddalena and Petr Yan taking on Son Yadong. A few big names in the undercard as well, Curtis Blades, RDA, to name a few.
Back in 2020.
How did he lose, and why does he always...
Decision.
No, TKO.
TKO?
Elbows and punches.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
He
like
doesn't remember it. He just doesn't remember it.
Never happened.
Can't really argue. Maybe early stoppage, like maybe that's what his argument is.
I have, because I remember, I definitely watched this fight, but I do not remember it.
Pretty easy to get the wires crossed with the amount of sport that we watch.
Yeah.
He's always maintained that he didn't lose the fight, but it's certainly on his record.
Yeah, it's definitely.
He's got a loss.
The fight happened,
and
he
it
didn't
was
lose,
to Marlon Chito Vera.
Yeah.
Thoughts around the card? Thoughts around...
I think it's a very tasty card. It might be, say, top heavy compared to UFC 300. Then this is the comparison everyone's been making, that UFC 300 doesn't have the as good title fight, but I think it's still good. But I think the card overall for UFC 300 is better.
Yep.
But I think this is for a pay per view. This is definitely a very, very good one to buy and check out, because. It's very fun, and I am quite interested in this fight because, like you said, Chito's really Vera has been very, very good in this division. Has fought really, really well. Interesting split decision loss to Cody Sandhagen, Corey, sorry, a couple of years ago, but. He might not be as highly ranked as like some of the other guys that could be contending in this, but I think with the storyline is one of the reasons in this. But it'd be interesting because I definitely know for a fact that O'Malley has improved significantly his time in the UFC.
His striking.
So he's now striking is excellent, and overall his complete game has improved. That. It really forces guys to fight him in his style. So it'll be quite interesting. Machito is also a very good and dangerous striker. I'm going to go with the champ to keep to finally get over that loss and to keep his belt in this. That's probably the most likely way. But I think this is going to be a very fun fight, and wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being a bit of a bloodbath with him going back and forth.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to end with someone on the canvas. You always get that feeling when Sugar Sean is in the octagon. The fact as well that he's got 3 inches taller as well probably plays into it.
That's always his benefit. He's a lean dude, but he's got the reach.
Significant reach. And like you said, I think since 2020, O'Malley has gotten a lot better, whereas there's some questions around Chito Vera with the Sandhagen loss. And he also had a loss in there to Song Yadong, I think, as well.
Yep.
Monks, thoughts?
Song Yadong is on this card, which is
he is on this card, yeah.
Yeah, interesting that they've got...
Sean have a chat before. How'd you get the win, bro?
Yeah. No, it is interesting having Song Yadong and Petr Yan there as well. That's probably your fight for the next contender to whoever wins O'Malley, Vera.
Especially contentious that Petr Yan one was with a split decision as well.
Well, yeah, no. So the what's his name? The dude that fought last week.
Which division?
In this division, that beat Cejudo. He's number one. He'll get the winner of the bentweight title. Sorry. It's not Emrab. That's how I say it. But
Merab Dvalishvili.
Merab, yes. Merab is the number one contender. Sorry.
Yeah, true. So yeah, I've got nothing more of that than
fake stats corrected.
Fake stats, yeah. Probably only other thing to mention on the UFC, I guess, is the fight night that happened over this weekend. Rosenstrike and Gaziev.
Gaziev.
Yeah. Just shouting out Tyson Pedro, leaving the gloves in the ring as well, retiring. There's probably a bit of news from there.
What do you guys think about, so to finish on UFC 299, the lightweight, the Dustin Poirier taking on Saint Denis?
It's a sick fight. This Saint Denis better get some of his accolades up because he's pretty highly touted. The God of War, his nickname.
Yeah,
better than that.
Was he French Foreign Legion? I think
Foreign Legion,
Special Forces.
So, fighting in the octagon is maybe not the scariest thing that he's done in his life, which again is nuts.
He was SAS operator. So, does have a very strong military background and then also martial arts.
He's a bad man. He's only got one loss in his...
That was his first in the UFC.
Yeah.
But outside of that, he's been going up there very, very quickly. He's a dangerous dude. Dustin's stalwart, really, of that division. He's been around for a very long time. And I think, he's a dangerous dude, but it's going to be a very interesting fight to see what happens in this one. Dustin's not the
favourite. Yeah, he's $2.40 compared to BSD. He's $1.57.
Young blood or the veteran?
The old head. Sugar Sean, we didn't go over the odds. He's $1.43. Cheeto Vera $2.86. So Sean, a reasonable favourite there in the main fight. There's some fun fights there for sure.
Yep.
Going back to Tyson Pedro, 32-year-old Aussie, has had a couple of losses recently.
I think he went 4-4 in the UFC or something like that.
Yeah, maybe a few more fights than that. He started off well, beating Khalil Roundtree and Paul Craig.
6 wins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses. 11 fights in the UFC. 6-5. Yeah. Finish on the fighting news. Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou is this week. It's Friday night or Saturday our time, I believe.
Yeah.
Check out their promo video. It is excellent. For a lot of the say hype for boxing fights and even MMA fights, the back and forth, to see these two kind of come together and put together like the group. I'm going to say the greatest ever promo for a fight. Yeah. It's quite impressive, and because they had to come together to shoot a lot of this and do it, and being happy to be on the same sort of page, to sell the fight, knowing it's a mega fight, it's going to be huge for both of them. That I think it's pretty cool, and I think that fight's going to be amazing. Joshua should really piece Francis up, but you never know with Francis and the power that he has. And punch a chance. We'll see what he can do.
$4.75 if you want to get on someone who's killed people in the UFC, obviously going on to box against someone who's boxed their whole life, so a huge disadvantage in that sort of regard.
And a dude that's going to be way more prepared than I think Fury kind of took him in that first fight. Looking at what the shape Fury was in for the failed Uzcek fight kind of showed that, he'd trained very, very heavily for that versus what he did for Francis.
I suppose the argument is when these big boppers go and, they're heavyweights and the power that Ngannou possesses, you can't discount him. Whereas, say, like when Conor went to fight Floyd, you're like, the power's probably not so much of a concern.
Exactly.
And
the defensive masterclass that his Floyd would be able to sustain that. So
and I'm certainly no boxing aficionado, but it's going to be a hard one for Ngannou to go out there and beat one of the best boxers of our generation. But if anyone's got that knockout power, it's certainly him.
Well, to some, he probably beat Fury in that fight, and probably a very nice decision there for Fury. The judges did him a solid. So we'll see what he can go do against Joshua. I think from what that version of Fury, this version of Joshua is a step up for Francis. So we'll see what he can do.
A few Anzacs on the rest of the card too. So Joseph Parker going up against the Chinese heavyweight Zhali Zhang.
That's a big fight for getting in this conversation with Fury, Joshua, and the like. So that's a good one.
He's at about $3, and Big Justice Huni kicking off against Kevin Lerner. Get $1.45, so pretty heavily favoured there, Big Justice.
Yeah, that's into the American market for him. So he also trying to get his name out there and into that arena.
So some interesting ones there. It's pay-per-view, is it?
I assume so.
What's streaming services?
For us, it'd probably be main event.
Main event?
And yeah, whatever can get that. I think KO does main event. So
I'm just going out now. Does KO have
Joshua versus
Ngannou? Yeah. Did you see KO? And I was a victim of this. Had a real shit show around UFC 298, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to write them an email, get my money back. They refunded everyone.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. Really?
They just sent. Yep, just sent.
You're right.
Sent you an email saying was very sorry because I left it last minute, but I was trying to process my payment in the prelim, so not even main card, and I missed every single fight except for Volk, and I got the end of the Whittaker fight. So you're paying $60 and you get 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And they were copping some serious heat. Like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, okay.
But I think they just couldn't keep up with the demand.
Yeah.
So I think
they probably missed our 2 best Australian fighters are on this one.
Yeah, so it's going to be unusually big.
High, volume.
Yeah, volume. So, but yeah, they did everyone a solid and refunded. And I was after some questionable streams. I was losing my shit. I was down the coast with the family. Like, I didn't really have the option to go to the pub. So I was really trying to get the stream coming through. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat.
Interesting, it's not on that. So.
Yeah, so they don't have it. So
sure. Maybe it's a DAZN one.
Yeah, I think it might be on DAZN.
So,
there you go. So if you're an NFL aficionado and you haven't cancelled your DAZN and just yet, that might be the way to go.
That's it.
Very good. That'll do us for fights.
Yes. Final round. We've already done
We've already hit the
others of the final round.
Hit the F1 because we'll talk about that and then we'll talk some other little random things.
Actually, we can kind of make this work.
F1, you two are the F1 diehards of the table. How you guys seeing this weekend?
I completely missed this weekend because I thought it was running tomorrow.
But
they were a day early.
Yes, it was this morning. So 2 a.m. this morning, this race happened. Shock, Max Verstappen gets pole and wins. So that follows through. If you get the results from the race, I think it followed the Red Bulls 1-2, Ferrari were 3-4. Sainz did take over Leclerc. I think Leclerc struggled for braking on his car and really couldn't fight. So he finished 4. Do I have that right?
Yeah, Sainz was 4.
Yeah, Sainz was 4. So actually George Russell finished 3rd. So what are you looking at? Did they change their class?
2024 Bahrain Grand Prix.
What am I looking at?
Oh yeah, yours looks more right because it's F1. Go down, get down. Races, Bahrain.
Oh, were you looking at
So
what were we looking at?
Yeah, so Sainz finished 3rd.
Qualifying, sorry.
Yeah, so Sainz finished 3rd. Leclerc was 4th. So Red Bull 1, Ferrari 2. Mercedes was split by the McLarens. So George, Norris, Hamilton, Oscar, Sarri finished there in 8th. Then into the Aston Martins, who were 9th and 10th to round out the point scoring, essentially. I think the big story out of all the other teams kind of fighting there, that Haas looks sort of good. Yuki and Ricciardo, there was a bit of favouritism, I think, played to Ricciardo in this race. But there really wasn't a lot of pace. And the Alpines really struggled, qualified last, and they finished right at the bottom there. So I believe a bunch of their technical directors and guys that designed the car have already quit because they don't think they've built anything of note and have gone very backwards this year. Logan Sargent, Williams finishes last, and Bottas was there in 19th. I believe the race was not a great race. There wasn't a lot of potential overtaking in this. But as I was saying to James and I were talking about this off pod, it was interesting in the qualifying, the gap, I've used the number, I think it was 1.053 seconds. If you had that gap in 2016 Bahrain, you would have started 5th. If the pole sitter was first and you had a 1 second gap, you would have started 5th. For this, you would have been last. So, yeah, that was kind of for the spread, a second spread across the entire field. So I guess the cost cap is working in that regard. But, yeah, the tenths, we're down to the tenths, the really small separation, that the Red Bulls are still at the top there and can still dominate. And I think we've kind of seen it. It looks like a Red Bull Ferrari season. We'll see if Mercedes and McLaren can involve themselves in that competition and pick up the slack.
Speaking of, Oscar Piastri had 2 podiums last year. Yeah, seeing him maybe grabbing a few more podiums this year?
Yeah, by all accounts, he drove really well on the weekend. His qualifying was really, really good. It's just whether the car can compete. And interesting, looking at the timings on that Max only lapped half the field. Usually he was doing a bit more than that. So did finish with a handy 22-second lead over his full pit stop over his teammate. So still the dominant driver. I saw some jokes of people showing his onboard footage, and they'd edited his screen to say they had Netflix playing during the race because he was that comfortable in the lead. But he's the defending champion in the rocket ship, and they'll have to chase him down, and we'll have to see if any of the teams can do that.
That's it. I think the interesting to watch this season is obviously going to be Ferrari, the fight between Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc as well.
Yeah.
With
can they keep that car healthy?
Well, I mean,
in one piece.
Yeah, with Hamilton also coming across to Ferrari next season, with Sainz not contracted.
Yeah, well, there was some pretty sad
them,
vision after this race. Sainz got out of the car to celebrate with the team, and there wasn't a single Ferrari dude there. So he got out looking around. There's just like, I finished on the podium, and we're not celebrating that.
Yep.
So interesting vision. I get they probably celebrated behind the scenes, but for what they showed on the coverage and for Sainz, it looked kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Feel bad for Sainz. He's been kicked out. He's still very competitive. He's finishing in the top 4 regularly. Yeah. I think he did better overall. I think I did better overall last year. You'd have to double check that, but I think Sainz was just as competitive. Finished 4th in the. What are you looking at there?
That was the starting grid
for last year's results. But I think he's going to get a job elsewhere. The question is going to be where. Maybe he can go straight into Mercedes. The talk is, does he aim to go to Audi? But like for him, he's in a peak of his, prime essentially. You don't want to go to Audi as a team that's kind of starting up and waste your good years trying to get them off the ground.
Potentially.
He's in that world championship window for competition at the moment. Can anyone catch Verstappen?
Yep. Well, I guess for Sainz, it's where can he go? Like Mercedes may already have that spot filled with their development drivers.
Yep. Let's finish on F1. Where do they go next week? Jimmy, why you had that up? Because I think there's another race, and then they're here in Australia. So, next week they're in Saudi Arabia, and then 2 weeks they're here in Australia.
Yep. So this weekend in Saudi Arabia, they've got the boxing and the F1.
Tasty.
Tasty
trip.
After Australia, they're back in Japan for the first time in a few years from memory.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
I think they've been in Japan recently because they just extended that circuit.
There was a couple of new circuits this year.
I think they were there. I think they went last year, but they hadn't been because of COVID the previous 2.
That might have been it.
That sounds about right. That's F1.
I'm just looking at that season from last year. Yeah, they were in Japan last year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But
that might have been thinking last year then.
Yeah. Japan notoriously slow opening up after COVID.
Yep.
Talk some footy, Aussie rules footy?
Yeah, Aussie rules.
First round. Oh, yeah.
So Aussie rules going different as well, splitting the opening round.
Round 0.
Yeah, round 0. Opening round. They kick off on Thursday night with the Swans taking on Melbourne up at the SCG. Lions take on Carlton in a rematch of elimination final last year, prelim final. And on Saturday, Suns take on Tigers and Giants take on Collingwood, which means in this round there are 0 games being played in the traditional home of Melbourne.
Yes, very interesting. So some interesting games there with be interested to see what the Lions, whether they can I think the Blues are a little bit banged up in their back half
Yep.
at the moment, and the Lions have looked great during trials. I went to that Suns game here in at the Monaco, the Theatre of Dreams, and they really were run all over the place by the Giants. Giants looked as good as they did last year, and the Suns, I think it looked better from the last time I saw the Suns play. But the storyline there, of course, is going at Richmond, their coach, Hardwick, going up against his former team, whether he'll have the boys up and ready for this one. They're actually
short price favourites.
So they're obviously gone with that storyline. The coach is going to return. His boys are going to put his old club to the sword. But they're a pretty young list. It'd be interesting to see whether they can actually do that against Richmond or not.
Giants, Collingwood as well as a prelim grudge match as well.
Yeah.
So there was only a point that separated them last year. So some interesting matchups for sure.
Definitely tasty football there in that opening round, as you will.
Then we go back to the traditional opener, which will kick off Thursday, March 14.
So what's that difference in game time for Carlton there? Do they play Thursday and Thursday?
Friday to Thursday.
Okay, so it's almost a full week.
They got the six-day turnaround, and Richmond's got the 5-day turnaround.
Yep.
So Carlton and Richmond play 2 games before some clubs or a lot of clubs play their first game.
Yes, correct.
It's weird. I'm not really sure.
How's that going to work come back into the year with, I guess back into the year, it's going to be annoying because the whole year they're going to have like one game in hand. The ladder's going to be so annoying.
I assume they'll have an early bye.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Is my thoughts there. Thoughts around who can win the whole thing this year? Collingwood trying to go back-to-back.
Yeah, the Demons played really well last week in this week in their trial game, kind of really shown that they're still as good as they've been, and all the media stuff.
It's never a culture problem.
yeah. If anything, it's made
storylines. Don't get me wrong. A guy gets done for trafficking illicit substances, and a bloke's poor career gets ended because of concussions. They're storylines, but I'd be very surprised if there's an actual quote unquote culture problem at the D's.
I agree. And I think Collingwood kind of showed it didn't matter last year. And
100%.
Brisbane are up there at the top. I think they're going to be competitive again this year. Interesting, the Greater Western Sydney's there. $7 in third there at $7.
Coming right into their window, and Carlton, a lot of pressure as a Blues fan at 9s, but she's started to believe as a blue bagger last year, that's for sure. Melbourne's there at 9s, Swans out to 10.
Geelong at 18 is a bit of an interesting. But they're aging roster.
Yeah. Well, half their aging guys have retired, and then the other half are getting close. So there's going to be a big changing of the guard at Geelong over the next couple of seasons.
Yeah. But West Coast, very far out there. That must mean they're incredibly short for the spoon.
Yeah, well, they're 250 to win the whole thing. Let me find a spoon. Should be in futures here. Talk amongst yourselves.
Least wins, $1.80.
$1.80. That's so short. Wow. We looked at they were $2 2 weeks ago, so they've come in already.
Maybe they think North Melbourne looks all right. So.
$3.75.
Hawthorn are
better value, there. If you wanted to go 10s at Hawthorn, have been pretty injury ravaged already.
Yes, they've been banged up, so hopefully they can get healthy and avoid it. But it's. I'm looking forward to the season. I think it'd be interesting. Some shots fired by the NRL, and see if they kind of show their hand of their growth. There hasn't been much there had been expansion chat in the off season a couple of months ago, but nothing recent.
I feel like we're going round and round in circles. Is this stadium going to be built in Hobart? Lots of people down there that aren't footy mad say $600 million, $700 million, a lot of fucking money.
Well, the Gabba, the redevelopment for the Olympics was canned, so the Gabba's not going anywhere, and they're either going to not do anything and potentially use Suncorp for the opening stadium and the athletics of the Gabba anyway, use the current facility and save the $2.7 billion they were going to spend on it, or look elsewhere, find another spot where they could potentially build another big stadium, which would then not be used post-Olympics, are the Lions going to move into it? So it's looking likely the Queensland government might not do anything. So,
I think they were thinking of potentially using the Gold Coast Stadium as a venue venue.
True, but it's not Brisbane.
Not
Not
Brisbane.
the Brisbane Olympics. So.
That's all right. As long as the Queensland government doesn't pull a Victorian
Yeah,
government.
as long as they don't pull out, yeah. But the governments are definitely penny pinching when it comes to stadium building because it's a lot of money for sports, essentially.
Yeah.
When
I mean, Queensland does have a pretty big sports industry. Like, I'm sure they would have something else.
Yes, they're competing.
That they're able to use.
They've been competing in recent years against Melbourne for the sporting capital of Australia.
Yeah.
Trying to nick a bunch of sporting events and having them up there and kind of showing their wares. But I don't know.
Yeah. What I don't get is redevelopment aside. Like, why can't they just still use the Gabba as like the opening ceremony venue or?
Because I think it's size and age.
Yeah, they always want it in the same stadium. And Gabba only seats like 38,000, so it's not up to Olympic scratch.
No, not at all.
Yeah, okay.
So Suncorp, you get 50. So,
but it's not the right size.
It's you can't. Yeah, it'd be a very interesting opening ceremony of guys getting in and out. But it's more a logistics nightmare. And yes, like I said, it's probably not the great.
Dancers are doing their ACLs on the shit turf.
It's not a bad.
And then just a little bit of soccer, NFL to finish off.
Yep.
Massive.
Do you want a soccer?
Oh yeah, may as well.
Get a Sue.
Manchester Derby kicks off in about 4 hours. I think United fans will be happy with not getting flogged, given how City's been shaping up. Liverpool got a late winner against Nottingham Forest overnight. Spurs and Newcastle all getting wins. Probably the most impressive feat in the soccer this week was Erling Haaland putting 5 in the back of the net in the FA Cup fixture against Luton Town. Not a whole lot to report. Nothing's really changed since last ep. Liverpool did go 4 points clear, but City have that game in hand. So it'll be interesting to see how the Manchester Derby runs tonight. Relegation zone, if you wouldn't mind just scrolling down, seeing if anything's changed. Sheffield and Burnley are pretty much done. And then it's pretty tight. Pretty tight there between Luton, Forest, Everton, Brentford. And then you have a little bit of breathing room up to Palace and Bournemouth, and then from Fulham up, probably safe. But yeah, not heaps in the soccer world. I think since last pod as well, Bayern Munich lost again. So Leverkusen really starting to firm as taking out the Bundesliga, which would be good for German soccer, German football long term, I think.
Probably the other thing I'll add is Liverpool won the League Cup, beating Chelsea 1-0.
Yep.
It was a header from Van Dijk that
nice bit of
fake
silverware.
Yep, that's it. Every bit counts.
More than United's won recently. And more than Spurs will ever win. Sorry. They're everyone's second team now, unless they're their first team with Ange, etc.
Yeah, true.
Still pains me to say that a little bit. That'll do soccer. The NFL Combine as well has occurred. You shouted Xavier Worthy in the shouted beer, but there was plenty of guys that ran 4.3 or under, wasn't there?
Yeah. So in the cornerbacks, there was 8 guys that ran 4.3 or quicker. For the wide receivers, there's some big boys like Brian Thomas, who's I think 6'3" and a bit, and ran a 4.33, which is mental. And Tex Walker, I think, is also 6'2", ran a 4.36 as well. So there's definitely in this wide receiver class, we've had some of the smaller, leaner guys come out in recent years. We've gotten some of the bigger, taller guys coming out in this one. Some excellent talent there, and some definite pace shown. It was also interesting. The top linebacker, Wilson, I think he did a 4.44 from memory. Chop Robertson, who's about the same size as Micah Parsons, is an outside pass rusher, did a 4.49. So, yeah, some big dudes moving as well. So, I think it was pretty good to get some pace. Also, get some pace on time, clock on, whatever. It's also, I guess, a bit disappointing for some guys that didn't participate, like the quarterbacks. So the top 3 didn't do anything. Interesting, Williams only did interviews and didn't even do medicals. So that was kind of an interesting thing. He said he's only going to do medicals for teams he does invites with. which is quite interesting because they might limit him for teams that might want to move up spots to be involved in his conversation. I was a bit disappointed to see some of those, of course they didn't do anything, they didn't throw. So it really ended up being, and a lot of guys didn't run either.
Yeah, I only got stats for 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah, no one else ran. I'm a bit disappointed that Joe Milton didn't run. I would have liked to have seen what he could do because he's my Anthony Richardson comparison at the moment, and I wanted to see how fast he'd run. I don't think he's Anthony Richardson fast, but I think he's fast. He's got the biggest arm in the draft. They measured it. He was 61, 63 miles per hour, I think, for him. And he threw 70-yarders like it was nothing. JJ McCarthy threw, looked really good. Was second fastest ball thrower. Penix threw really well as well. His measurables are ridiculous. Like he's got the same wingspan, hand size as Anthony Richardson, but he's 2.5 inches shorter. So
big hands.
So that blew up the combine. And supposedly his medicals were all good, which is the big thing from him. But whether that's, the teams are keeping that close to their chest and don't want to say what they really think about his medicals. Dallas Turner ran really, really well.
That Chop Robinson 4.48 is impressive. Like he was already projected top 10. Like he's probably top 5 now.
Yeah, well, and Jared Verse down the bottom there. Get his weight. I think he was the only guy to run under 4.6. Well, what was the stat? I got to get his weight because it was, I think, over 250. Miles Garrett ran a 4.6, and he was the only other guy to run that fast. He ran a 4.5. So he also had a very, very good combine as well. Lots of dudes had good combines. Tight ends ran really well too. So
that Jared Verse led edges as well for bench reps. So
he's in the top 10.
He's one of the fastest and the strongest. So certainly done his draft stock no harm.
Some dudes putting up some really good numbers. We'll get deep into draft stuff coming up in the coming weeks as we get closer to the end of April. League year starts this week, which then I think means tampering starts, and then free agency's the 13th or 15th. Which is almost next week, if the math is right.
Yeah, it's only 12 days.
Yeah, Friday next week. It's potential opening of free agency. So, not too far away. Lots of guys getting cut too. We don't need to go through all the dudes getting moved at the moment, but people are clearing.
The easiest day in any coach's job.
Yeah, people are clearing cap space. People are getting ready. I think the Commanders have like 100 mil. They cut Logan Thomas, so they got like 100 mil in salary cap at the moment. So some guys are going to spend. And the salary cap went up. They were thinking 15 mil. It went up 30. So biggest salary cap jump in a long time, just proving NFL is king and making a bulk cash.
Probably leave it there. We didn't really touch on the NBA outside of LeBron James. Going past 40.
I thought it was Jackson,
40,000. Celtics are on a 10-game heater. They've all but wrapped up the East. It's going to be interesting to see who can go with them there. And the Wizards,
taking
the mantle off Detroit. The Wizards have gone to absolute garbage. They've lost 14 on the trot. They're sitting bottom of the East. The West, the top is fun because the Nugs have got things right. They're on a 6-game win streak, which means they're in striking distance of both OKC and the Wolves. Lots of conjecture all year around that 1 and 2 actually the strongest team in the West, and then it's tight all the way through. Clippers, Pels, Suns, Kings, Mavs. And then the NBA really hoping, I think, that the Warriors and Lakers have those last two play in spots.
Should be safe looking at that with about a 6-game lead. So
bottom of the West is Wemby and the Spurs, although they certainly look a lot stronger with him.
Oh, they're 100% tanking for a high pick. They take him out of games so they can lose.
Yeah, 100%. You seen his blocks record?
Yeah, he got a 5.5 during the week as well. So it's pretty rare that happens. And but I think that's his second one as well. Oh, he went really close like the game before, and so. Yeah, he's a crazy stat man. So
he got a triple-double with blocks in a game this season. Yeah. He's a different kind of athlete, that's for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of talent they pair him with next year. That's for sure. that'll do us for today.
Yep.
I think we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. We've got there's it's so much sport incoming now. So get through, I suppose, a little bit of that lull. That's only really hangs around for a few weeks after cricket dies down. Super Bowl finishes. It's kind of like, oh, come on, you can't wait for the footy season to come. But footy is officially back as of today. Check out our clips if you don't want to, go through the whole Esky. If you're more of just of an Aussie sports fan, we will clip up the league videos. We do have our old clips already up there for the non-Sydney teams. Check them out. Check us out on the socials. And thanks for listening this week to On The Esky. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time.
Goodbye.
Catch ya.
Bye.